I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning and welcome. Let me introduce the board to you. To my far left is Laurie Schwett, board member, Glenn Koppelman, board member and vice chair. I'm Ellie Alessio, I'm the chair. Chuck Hart, board member, Peter Bakey, board member, and our administrative assistant, Susan Ayer. And welcome to our friends from Unitil and Revision. Please give us your names and title, I guess. And to use the microphone, just press the button, make it turn green, have it sit in front of you, and you'd be good to go. You don't even have to hold it.
All right, I'll try and simplify it and do the introductions for the team. My name is Nick Dolan. I'm a licensed engineer and principal with TF Moran. We've been involved with the site design, permitting, and construction administration associated with the project. To my far right is Chuck Lloyd. He's the manager with electrical operations with Unitil. Directly to my right, Mr. Jake Dusling, principal engineer with Unitil. So he's been attending all those various planning board and select board meetings with me as we've moved our way through the permitting, the design, and now construction of the project. And to my left, Mr. James Hasselbeck, Revision COO, resident and master of all things.
All things solar. Yeah, we want to welcome you to Kingston. We look forward to working with you as you develop your project down there in the western part of the town. And we wanted the opportunity to meet with you because there's some questions about the fees and so forth, and we want to resolve them. I think we're all a little bit late to the table on that one. We should have probably hammered that out sooner rather than later, but I see no reason to stop progress at all. I think we go forward and come to an amicable, agreeable, mutual agreement. I don't know if you have some suggestions, proposals to make before us.
Well, so from a building permit fee, we kind of used what we think the estimated cost to install the racking, the modules, and the inverters, and used your $3.50 per $1,000, and was thinking that would be a check we'd give the town to place into escrow to use for inspections and any other type of town fees associated with the project and it moving forward. Outside of that, I don't know that we've contemplated anything else.
Because there is the impact fee as well.
So maybe I can help a little bit with that just from the history of what we've been doing with the project and the conversations we've had to date. Okay. We look at that impact fee and note that through the entirety of the project that hadn't necessarily been discussed relative to fire department, police department, school system. So in just rereading what the impact fee schedule states, it does say very specifically for buildings and buildings only. But obviously we want to be good partners. Through this project, we've rebuilt a portion of Toll Road. We rebuilt the intersection at Mill Road and Toll Road because that's what the town had communicated to us, that those were some improvements that were needed to make this project work for everyone. There wasn't an expectation for an impact fee because the impact fee schedule wasn't written as such. So perhaps we could use some feedback from you folks as to why that request is coming forward. It's
come forward because not with schools or library or anything else. It really was the fire department. Because should there be a fire down there, even on the perimeter, it might have an impact. So that's where we're coming from on the fire department. We're not looking for every applicable fee that there could be. I understand the electrical, and correct me if I'm wrong, electrical fees will be billed directly to Unitil for the inspections therein. So that's one set, that was the easy, but the impact fees was the one we really had a question on. It's new, this is new for us, and so we're looking for some guidance. We still need to do a little more homework, and we welcome the opportunity to meet offline with you and hammer it out as well.
And maybe, James, you'd be a good person to speak to this, given your history with these types of facilities and concerns. Like, obviously, if the fire department has concern, we need to address it, but maybe just from a historical context, having built so many of these, how that's played out in other municipalities and potential applicability here. You know, do we have an issue that needs to be addressed?
Thanks, and that's really why I'm here, just to provide some perspective of what we've seen in other municipalities throughout New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts. It is a little tricky because the majority of projects that we have built like this, they have waived both building, electrical, and permit fees. But an important distinction in the majority of those projects is that they have been directly for the town that we're working in for one way or another. So those fees ended up just actually adding cost to the town's overall project, and this is a slightly different job there. But something that we have worked with a variety of different towns in the state in the past is using what's called a payment in lieu of taxes, or a pilot fee, where it'd be like a one-time fee which perhaps provides, you know, you heard from this team, they want to be good neighbors here, provides, you know, a one-time lump sum payment that the town can use to cover anticipated costs. I think that from an actual real-world perspective, these projects have little, if any, impact on the municipalities they're in, especially this one where it's owned, operated, and maintained by the utility. There's not an expectation of police or regular fire services unless there is an event. Yeah, so that's why I think a pilot might be a good strategy, because it's not addressed cleanly in either the Kingston or most New Hampshire municipality impact fee schedules.
Well, I can't speak for all the board members, but I know a number of us have been contacted by residents inquiring what's in it for Kingston, if I could be that blunt, and I know I couldn't make an answer. I'm assuming that there are taxes that would be paid, but there's no service, free electrical service to the town buildings or anything like that.
No, so it offsets all of the Unitil ratepayers' bills. So the project as a whole went in front of the PUC, and it was deemed in the public interest that over the life of the project, it is a net benefit to all Unitil customers. So the energy produced by the facility is injected directly into the Unitil grid, reducing what we purchase off the transmission system, which what we purchase off the transmission system directly gets charged back to all customers. So by reducing that, it's reducing essentially what we're charging all customers for energy. I'll also say, you know, to James' point, that payment in lieu of taxes side of it, you know, that type of approach would also mean annual taxes would be different, right, James? I mean, typically that's in lieu of an annual tax bill for these type of projects, so it can stabilize the cost. Unitil did not propose that to the town here. We would be paying our normal regular town taxes on this like we do for all our substation projects. I believe that annual bill is on the order of $300,000 to $350,000 a year, just in tax revenue for the town. So typically those payment in lieu of tax type of programs is to stabilize that cost, reduce that cost for the project holder over the life of the project. We're not looking to do that here.
That annual tax payment is significantly higher than any pilot I've seen for a project like that. So that's a great deal for the residents.
Do you have any knowledge of the project that they did up in Moultonborough? I'm sorry. I think it was, I want to say it was another utility company. And it was 8 acres, 8,000 panels up there?
Yeah, yep.
So we just happen to have somebody that knows with the inspector up there. So we were going to try to reach out to them, just trying to get some, I don't want to say guidance, but you know, we don't have a protocol here in the town of Kingston on solar fields.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think it's something, as Elliot stated, that we're not going to hold up the project. We want you to go forward,
which is great.
Get rocking and rolling on it. But I think we just need a little bit more time to come up with these answers. And that's why we brought you in to talk about it, to get your input and kind of to see where we're looking at.
Aside from, Jake, I just have a question if that's all right. Aside from the tax revenue that Unitil's already paying the town of Kingston, what is the town of Kingston's treatment of existing utility-owned facilities, substations or other easements or whatever?
I don't have an answer to that.
I can speak for our past projects. Like when we did an expansion at East Kingston substation as well as Kingston substation, when we built that, there were no associated impact fees with those projects. Those projects themselves The one out on Depot Road had no building permit fee, nothing associated with it. It was, because there was no building. The Kingston substation project, which is now going on, don't quote me, but I think it's 6-7 years at this point. The only thing that was associated with any type of fee there was the control building itself, which was, you know, a $300,000 building shell that holds some, you know, computer relays. I think that total building permit fee was $900 to $1,000, somewhere in there. The rest of that facility was not subject to any type of impact fee or anything else. You know, total project cost, it's probably similar to what we're talking here.
Pedro, would you come forward, our building inspector, to add input accordingly?
Hi, morning.
Morning, Pedro.
Thank you. Finally, nice meeting you guys. My question to you is with regards to that project that you just mentioned. Is that project owned, maintained, and installed by Unitil?
The substation project?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
All right. So per building code, the building code does allow exemptions on fees when it's owned, maintained, and installed by the utility company.
So in this case, this facility is as well. So we're contracting revision to install it.
Therefore, the utility company is not installing it. So that's why.
So let me put, so when I say installed, those substation projects were not installed by Unitil personnel. They were all installed by subcontractors hired by Unitil, similar to what we're doing with revision here.
Got it.
So it's the same situation is what you're saying to us?
Well, I just have conversation at that state level and with the fire marshal office, and also they elaborated on that because I wanted to make sure that obviously I'm doing right and this can be pushed as soon as possible out of the door, because the whole idea is to bring this to the town, and that they give me reference with regards to that and why this project does not fit within the capacity of being an exempt project, and that's why I make the determination because of the state information.
So one other thing to note here too is this is the first solar facility like this being built by a utility in the state. So
It's the largest one too, if I'm correct.
yeah,
Pretty cool.
it's up there. I don't know that it'll be the largest one for all that long.
Well, this is only phase one though, correct?
So for this facility itself, this is it.
Oh, okay.
So this is it. So by state and PUC rules, you can only have one facility per parcel. So this is on 24 Toll Road. You are correct that we own 2 Mill Road to the south of it. That could be used for this. It could be used for something else. It was one of those, both parcels were sold together. We bought both of them. This one made the most sense from the first development standpoint, but there are no plans to do anything with anything else until this one's done and the whole project's proven out from a PUC level and so forth.
Because at the, excuse me, at the groundbreaking recently, it was stated by your CEO that this one part was being developed with these 11,232 panels, but there's more land to be developed.
There's more land.
And it's going to end up being a larger project.
So overall, the goal of the company, like he said, is 18 megawatts by, I think the goal was 2030. That's been pushed out. This project's taken longer than we thought. So along with that 2 Mill Road parcel, there's other parcels in our Concord territory and other things that we're exploring to get to that 18 megawatts. So you are correct, that is on the list, but there is no design done for it. We're not submitting anything until we've gone through the whole PUC effort, and they've, like I said, they've deemed this in the public interest. After this is built, we have to go in and say, all our assumptions played out, this is how much it's producing. After all the production tests and everything like that, they'll say, yep, you did a good job, and then we would explore the next next 2 or 3 after that.
I think just one thing to add on, an important part of the work that the Unitil team has done to prove that this project is in the public interest through the state level to all the ratepayers, including Unitil Kingston residents, is budgets, right? So we had to provide very hard budgets line item for every single phase of this project for review and approval by the Public Utilities Commission, which is why I think you hear a little bit of surprise from this team at this point to hear the addition of maybe additional fees that we're not anticipating.
Yeah, because I will say, like, this is, when we were in front of the select board 2 years ago, a year and a half for this, in front of the planning board, there was no mention of the need for an impact fee through all that. And now we're at the point where millions of dollars have been spent on site, the site's cleared, the site's ready to install panels, and now we're adding this cost component that was not anticipated in any way for the project.
And we're not here to hold your hostage. I mean,
Nope, I
we didn't
completely
think of it, I'll be very honest. It just didn't come up, but we're rookies at this as well. So we apologize for that piece of it, but like I said, we're not looking here to hold up the project at all. And I'd welcome the opportunity to meet with you and another board representative and our police and fire chief to make sure we're all set. Again, I don't know where it's gonna go, but I wanted that opportunity to talk with you guys about it.
I'm kind of curious why impact fees weren't discussed at the planning board level, because typically if they're gonna be discussed, that's where it
That's where it
happens.
come out, right?
So we did review in generality what the construct was of the conditions of approval, and in nowhere within those conditions of approval did it state that an impact fee would be assessed. We had the benefit of working with your regional planner, who had also helped us through the process with the substation projects, and we had seen them similarly. We see that also in the conditional use permits that were approved, as well as the lack of zoning relief, because we went back and we used the substation projects as our basis for them being a utility-owned project and what was or was not applicable. So that's why, as a group, I won't say shocked, but we're just very surprised that there was a request for an impact fee, because through everything that we have done, that had not been germane. So we thought we were being consistent with what all those prior approvals were. And we thought that made sense, and that was consistent with what Glenn had provided us previously. Going green with that is.
Right, right. So it's not that there was a statement at the planning board level that that impact fees were not needed. It's just that they weren't brought up at all. They weren't mentioned.
I went back through the meeting notes. I don't see a specific element of that. I'm going back through my personal notes as well. I know there were several statements made as to what are the expectations, and an expectation for an impact fee was not raised. So I would say by that token, it was discussed in that it was not applicable because it wasn't raised. If there was an expectation for a fee, because we talked about building permits, there was some uncertainty initially in March whether or not that would be required. As we worked our way through the planning board process, still a little bit of uncertainty. We came back to the select board. We were still a little bit of uncertainty, but in April, Pedro reached out and said, you're gonna have a building permit and there's gonna be a fee associated with it. And that's when that conversation started. That didn't take place relative to an impact fee. And typically, from the past projects that we've permitted in Kingston, I can speak for this per TF Rand and the work that we've done with Unitil, if that was going to be a condition that would be stated on their notice of decision, that impact fees would be assessed as appropriate. That was not included on this notice of decision. So we're not trying to scapegoat any types of fees or otherwise,
we're not.
just make sure that we're being clear and transparent on what our expectations were, given our past work in town.
Absolutely. And again, we've been good neighbors together for years, and I expect that to continue. I don't see any change in the cooperation between Unitil and the town staff, if you will. So I see that continuing. Most of us are fairly new to the board too, so that's part of the other problem along these lines.
One of the other elements is we were just trying to make sure we had a clear understanding on the building permit fee. The proposal from this team was that it was basically a fee that was being provided in escrow, so that way all inspections would be paid for by Unitil. If there were certain administrative fees the town has, those are obviously covered as well. But if there was some sort of remainder, that would be returned to Unitil as part of this. And just seeking your counsel, is that agreeable? Jake made reference, as did James, that there is no pilot program here. The town is getting the $300,000 to $350,000 each year for taxes, which seems reasonable. From me sitting on the other side of the table, so I can't make that decision for you folks, obviously. But that, I guess, is in part what we're trying to make sure we understand too.
Correct.
Is a $30,000+ fee appropriate for what the town's process is for this project, acknowledging that there are third-party inspections really being done by Region. They're signing off on this in the end as the PE of record, or as the engineer of record, the builder of record. We would certainly invite Pedro to be a part of that process.
Yes, and if you allow me to interject, will I be able to also get copies of those reports of inspections and things like that?
So I think as long as we're making sure there is good communication and transparency, that these reports that are being generated gives Pedro and the town the level of comfort that they need that this project's being installed appropriately in accordance to the plans. That's usually the net goal, right, of our building permits, is whatever it was supposed to be built, being built appropriately. And we think that we can accomplish that. Now, okay, certainly if Pedro is having to send a team of people out there to inspect this every day, that cost has to be covered. And that's really being done by a third party that they're certifying to and then providing you that information. We certainly would invite you to take part in that process, especially the final commissioning process, which is really the final step. And would you mind, can you give them just a little bit of a feel for what that is? Because I think that's an important step in this process, is hopefully we get closer to getting things online.
Yeah, definitely. And also just a way that the state of New Hampshire treats solar projects, there's actually very little building, as you know, involved. The state of New Hampshire classifies the overwhelming majority of the solar installation as electrical work. Everything outside of the foundations, the screw foundations that we're putting in the ground, everything else is electrical work that needs to be installed by a licensed electrician or a registered New Hampshire electrical apprentice. So it's actually electrical work. That building code, the building permit fee is generous, I think, because there's not that much structural work to do. What we typically see in projects at this scale, if the town wants an inspection, it's the state electrical inspector who comes to do that from the Department of Energy, is who he looks for.
Got it. But on our end, also within the purview of the code is the infrastructure support. How you're going to be supporting those photovoltaic arrays.
Classified as electrical.
That is correct.
In the state of New
So I will need to see that infrastructure being built according to what was submitted as engineer plans, and I will have to do periodic inspections on site for the forms of the bases that are going to be supporting those infrastructure items.
Would you do the same for the foundations of a substation?
Yes, as well.
Is that
I'll have to do it.
Is that your experience?
Historically, that has not been the experience.
That's an interesting change.
It's within the purview of the building code. So if the purview of the building code has established prescriptive provisions within it, and you are engineering those provisions, I'll have to follow through with accordingly with the engineering submittals. So I will have to go and do periodic inspections on those, yes.
Fair enough.
Because it's within the provisions of the IBC.
Yep.
Which is where this falls under.
So in this case, as James mentioned, the modules, everything in this facility isn't really being held up by any concrete foundations, with the exception of some precast pads that get placed for transformers and inverters, no different than what you see in like an underground development that we built. But all the modules themselves are literally just screw anchors into the ground. There's no forms, there's no concrete, there's no rebar cages, there's none of that actually being built. So I guess I don't necessarily know what would be inspected from a screw anchor standpoint, other than watching someone screw an anchor into the ground and making sure they hit the design torque.
Yeah, we have torque reports post-installation. So that's the kind of physical construction part, and again, torque reports by, it's the racking manufacturer does the installation themselves for the screws. It's that important.
And they do according to manufacturer's standards, I assume.
Correct.
So what I will do with regards to those is, anyways, I have the plans. I started setting up a list of items and referring them to the building code. Again, this project came in a rush mode to us, and I want to be able to give you the best service, but I also want to be able to relate what you have submitted and compare it to code.
I would challenge rush mode slightly. It's been multiple years.
Well, yeah, but for the issuance of the permit.
I think the permit caught everybody a little off guard.
Yes,
yeah.
the last, which is the last portion of it, and again, there are parameters, there are rules and standards that has to be complied with. So I'm preparing all those to you so that you can have it. You can go with it, and I will be anyways giving you a set of items and relate them to code so you can see that it's not, well, he just want to do it because he want to do it. Okay? It's within the prescription of the law that is established by state.
Okay. Comments, questions from my colleagues?
So at this point, we still have a discrepancy between what Unitil feels the building permit fee should be and what our building inspector feels the permit fee should be.
Yes, and again, I'm just the messenger, and shoot the messenger. We have the schedule, and when Nick approached me back in March to have an understanding on whether or not there was going to be a fee in a building, if a building permit was required, nevertheless of a fee, I did reach out back and I explained, yes, there is a requirement for a building permit to be pulled, and there are fees associated with it. And then the more you go into it, you found out the commercial impact fees that I have also to relate to Nick, and then I believe somebody from Jacob from Unitil. That's you.
I think part of the misunderstanding though is we looked at it as square footage. All right, 350 per 1,000 square feet versus cost. When we look at the area of this, it's about 25 acres plus or minus of panels. That'd be about a $4,000 building permit fee versus looking at the value of the panel itself, which just, I'm trying to look at this as realistic. Like, I'm almost a third party to all of this as the site engineer and just someone who knows a lot about the project and has had a lot of involvement with the town. When we're talking about the value of that panel, why that value of the panel is so integral to the building permit. It's supposed to be the install. It's the ability to review it and make sure that it was installed correctly. Just because those are expensive panels, to make that parallel that cost should, instead of $4,000, $30,000, that's a real big delta. And it seems, and I don't want to put words in Pedro's mouth, he's looking for more than $30,000. That seems like a very large sum. So I just, given the offsite improvements that have been installed to facilitate this project, I guess we're in part also looking for that to be, I don't want to say calculated into it, but it's more of, given this is a different type of project, making sure that we look at it in the most appropriate light relative to what your fee calculations are, acknowledging that those have changed.
So I really don't, when you approached me with that same concern, I said that I really don't know how you came up with the square footage fee because, or actual ordinance established in writing that is per cost, per 1,000. And then the building code on the chapter 1 administration specify that the cost of a permit fee shall be done, which I sent you the excerpt of the code, based on the cost of materials, installation, and the overall cost of doing the project. And that's why I explained to you that based on state law and town, there is a little bit of a discrepancy because the state law actually requires a little bit more. We're not as restrictive as the state law, so we have to actually recourse to the state and follow that guidance. And that's why I came up with the fee, and that's why I said that I wasn't, I don't know. But again, for me, it's not about the fee as much as it is about getting this done, getting it done the right way. That's why I divert back to the board, because I cannot make that determination myself. So that's the board decision on how they want to relay that, because it's not, the fee is not a life and safety mechanism that will prevent you from doing your project. So for me, the biggest thing is how we are preserving life and safety.
No, understood, and I don't want to prolong the conversation because I know we can go to the tendency to get in loops. But that's a great point. It's about life and safety, and it's not so much about the fee. But what we're hoping to convey to this board is that it is very important about that fee, because the fees that were established about this project were brought forth to the PUC, and in part, that price drives whether or not it was appropriate and in the best interest of the public. If this project cost an extra $100,000 or an extra $1 million, those are things that go into the decision making. I can't say what that break point is in the dollars, but I'm just asking you to be sensitive to that relative to Unitil, because if they want to move forward with these in the future, they're going to look at this as the barometer. How much did this project cost? Did we do our due diligence? And it appears, at least relative to building fee and potentially an impact fee, we were substandard in some way.
Yeah, and I will say, like to Nick's point there, depending on what those end up being, it may have changed decisions that were made over a year and a half ago. And those decisions were based on, input from the town at the time. So, as far as where we sit today and added fees on top of this, it's tough to figure out what that would have done a year and a half ago. But I can say decisions may have been different. if we knew those fees were a reality.
I think that's a fair enough statement, and like I said, we're not trying to do something shouldn't be doing.
That's why we invited you here today.
Yep.
Yeah, no, thank you.
no,
Appreciate the open conversation.
Yes.
I think separate from this specific project, we have seen a theme in Kingston. The board has recently approved a new solar roof ordinance, which is actually more restrictive than the state fire marshal office recommends.
Actually, I just hung up today with Phil Sherman on that, and the actual ordinance that we have relates equally based on the commentary section of the code with amendment to the IFC. And when everything was done, as I explained to you, I talked to, again, Phil Sherman. He's the chair for the board of Building Code Review Board for the state. Mm-hmm. And I explained what you told me last time we had the conversation. And he said to me, well, that is not correct. You cannot cover 50% of a roof plane and not have pathways.
This is not about that
Okay,
meeting.
yeah,
I guess the state
we're
fire
getting
marshal's
off
office has a
topic
different
now,
opinion. I
so-
think the point that I wanted to raise is that there have recently been several changes adding cost and reducing solar access in the town of Kingston.
And Kingston has always been conservative when it comes to our natural resources, as you well know. So I see solar panels fall into that same category. That's my personal opinion. But anyways, the board's going to need to consider what you've told us, what we've learned today. We learned a lot, and I thank you very much for coming. I hope to deliver within the next couple of days, invite you back, and be done. It's not going to be dragged out.
Okay, so I guess, yeah, that's my question. Where are we gonna go from here? What's the next step?
Don't stop work, that's
Okay.
right. Number one, don't stop work. Number two, the board is gonna wanna talk amongst itself and then give you a call and say, let's get together, this is where we talk offline, and then come back and make a formal thing at the next board, which is in 2 weeks, but we're gonna have this resolved, I wanna have this resolved before then. Okay? If that
Is there
works.
anything you need from the board to keep going? Are you guys all set? You got all your permits? You ready to roll?
No, with you saying we can proceed, then
Absolutely.
we're good. I mean, the only thing we don't have right now is the building permit, but if we're okay to keep going, then we're okay.
I'd say yes.
Yes.
Do my colleagues say yes as well?
Right. You don't, James, you guys aren't waiting for anything else, right?
No, but my general contractor background about, open-ended, unknown project costs, that's a challenging scenario for the owner to be in.
I would say it's scary from our perspective. Like Nick said, costs here were tight. We don't want to be in front of the PUC trying to explain, hey, why we had a cost overrun.
No,
for these particular
but
things.
I think the board needs a chance to consider everything that's been said. We didn't even know the actual tax impact, to be very honest with you.
Yep, so I got that from our finance.
Because we're waiting to hear back on that as well.
I got that from our finance group on Friday. They think it's gonna be on the order of 350, that's why I said 300 to 350.
Yep.
So it'll be
Yep.
somewhere in that range. It's not something we contemplated. We would consider a payment in lieu of tax type of thing, but, I think overall that usually benefits the project side of it more than the town side of it.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah, and, if this were a nonprofit situation, I'd say definitely we should be looking at a pilot. This is not a not-for-profit
No,
situation.
and to be honest,
So I
there
think-
was also some question on if a utility infrastructure would even qualify for that.
Right. So I'm not sure we even want to go there.
No.
but and I don't think it's appropriate, to be honest.
I would agree with you in this case, yeah.
Sounds like the best bang for your buck actually is yearly
It's,
tax.
and the headline is what's in it for Kingston, $300,000+ of annual tax revenue for something that requires little to any public service.
Well, I'd like us to reach out to our assessor.
We already, okay, we have asked, we haven't got the information.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll also say, on that side of it, our accounting folks are also trying to get in touch with the assessor to try to figure out the tax side of this as well. So what everything's based on so far is what we would typically pay for taxes on our other utility infrastructure in town, substations and so forth. But yeah, we have been also going down that same path.
Okay, because you put out a figure there to us, and I kind of like a gut check on that from our
Right,
own folks
of
to say,
course.
is that a real number? Is that, is it half that? Is it twice that? Is that really good?
Yeah, and if they need information from us to come up with that number, reach out to me and we'll get them in touch with the right people.
we have a new assessor as of about a year ago now, and they're doing a really good job for the town, and they do their due diligence, and they try to do it right, and so.
The problem is, Glenn, it's a different assessor. It does that utility.
The what?
It is a different assessor. It's not our town assessor that has to do this. It's a different type of assessor. That's what we're waiting on.
That specializes in
The
utilities.
specializing assessor.
Okay.
That's what we got calls.
Okay.
So, but that's it, I guess. Thank you.
Right, and as I said, the board will want to deliberate hopefully today or in the next couple, we don't have another public session until 2 weeks from today, it'll be at night. So any public decision will have to be made at that point, but that's not to say that we're not gonna get together in the meantime.
Yeah, no, and if you need anything from us, just reach out. We'll
Okay.
gladly come in and meet informally as well, whatever
Okay.
you guys need.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you very much, Ellen, for
I
coming.
have one question for clarification. So when we started it, Elliot mentioned that residents had been reaching out and asking what's in it for them, right? So two points were made. One, the tax revenue, which we think is going to be pretty significant. But the other one was a rate change, right? And that's not specific just for I want to clarify, it's not just for Kingston residents, it's for Unitil residents to include residents of Kingston.
Correct.
Unitil customers.
All Unitil customers.
I'm sorry, customers,
All
right?
Tell customers.
Okay.
Yeah, would reap the benefits of what energy is produced from this facility.
Okay, all right, great, thanks.
All right, thank you. Should we shut these back off?
With our,
That's correct. I
Okay.
believe Susan called Friday.
I've got a request into San Susan that they're working on this year's taxes, so I don't know soon we'll get, but we do get a ballpark.
That's what we need at this point is a ballpark figure. Okay, our next appointment is with Mr.
Okay. I'm Chuck Margosian, 8 White Drive, and I'm a member of the Solid Waste and Recycling Team and Task Force. And I'm here to ask for the Select Board's support and approval to help increase the resident participation for the collection center. So a little bit of background. With the objective of developing the collection center at 27 Main Street to eventually become the town's single point of recyclable collection, Phil has done a great job in enhancing the draw to the collection center by adding special events such as mattresses, scrap metal, paper shredding, electronics, Christmas tree collection for the benefit of the residents. Since its inception, resident participation has been experiencing a slow but steady growth, but we need to accelerate this if we're going to meet the goal of having all recyclables managed by the collection center instead of by a waste contractor, which will be defined in the upcoming contract. It's very important that we have that in place. The key is resident participation, and the key to participation is awareness, education of the services provided by the collection center. We have to get this information to each resident. We no longer have the Carriagetown News, which is unfortunate. The only communication vehicles we have are the town's webpage, social media, and the mobile electronic sign, which we have recently deployed for the shredding event. While these mediums are helpful, collectively, they don't reach the majority of town residents. We need a direct method of providing information, that is, periodic direct mailers to the mailbox of each resident, informing them of collection services of the specific upcoming events. This is really not an option. It is an imperative that the collection center meets its goal of majority resident participation prior to the town's award of the next contract by 12/25, as this will define contract requirement deliverables. So how do we do this? We can do this, probably the only vehicle we have right now is a direct mailer to each household's mail and P.O. box. We've done some checking on this. We have a draft card prepared. It's a bingo card. It's the least expensive way to get out to the residents. These bingo cards, you've seen them. You get them in the mail every day from candidates, and and they go right into your green container, right? So with the cost of doing this, the cost of delivering and printing each mailer is 42.5 cents. That's the printing and the actual delivery by USPS. We checked with the postmaster here. So it's 20 cents for printing and 22.5 cents for delivery. That does not go through the mail system. That's a direct delivery by the mail delivery person right into your mailbox. The effectiveness at this time, it's a little bit difficult because we understand that given the current political environment, you're getting 3 or 4 bingo cards a day in your mailbox. And if you're like me, each one gets about 3 seconds before it goes into the collection tote. However, I maintain that if you have one that's from the town, and it's distinguishable that it's official town information, it's going to get some attention. So the objective is, and the notion is here, is to get that bingo card to get the attention and up onto the refrigerator or whatever for future use. So I'm asking for the select board's approval for doing this distribution, and also for the cost in delivering this.
So the total cost would be?
The total cost
for one mailing?
Pardon me?
Total cost for one mailing would be?
42.5 cents.
Times?
Times the number of single-family dwelling units, which is, well, if we include mail P.O. boxes, we're probably up around 2,400.
2,400?
Deliverables times 42.5 cents.
Okay.
So, and I think my understanding is we currently have $1,000 in the budget.
That's true.
And so we're going to look for probably a couple of $100 over that to fulfill this need.
It's a little over $1,000.
Right.
$972 approximately supposed to be, depending on the final.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I should have asked you to come forward as well. My apologies.
And I believe there's just over $1,600 in the line item in the executive budget for the solid waste task force.
It's 1,000, but I looked at it the other day. Unless I don't have an updated budget, but that's what I had down there.
I think we started at 2,000 and we haven't used $1,000.
Yeah, we did the mailing for the tax, but that was split with stormwater, but
Yeah.
I didn't.
We'll have to look.
I did not bring my copy of the budget with me, but I thought it was $1,000. But, anyways, I'm sure we'll be able to come up with. If you said it's 972, that doesn't include P.O. boxes, though, or does it? It does.
that was the number I got this morning, was 972.
That's what he has in the account, not what the cost of the mail is.
When I multiplied 0.425 times 2,400, I got a little over $1,000.
1,008. Yep.
We'll go with that.
I'm not sure the exact number of post office boxes. I have not counted them down there. So that would be in addition to the single-family dwelling units.
Right.
And if we approve it, how soon do you want to get this out?
The card is prepared. It needs to be a little bit.
This one here?
Yeah, right. It needs to be massaged a little bit by the printer to accommodate the delivery information on it. But they tell us that once they receive the go-ahead from the town, it's about 3 days to get it to the printer, from the printer to the post office, and the post office is 2 to 3 days before it gets into the delivery stream. So we're looking from date of approval, probably about maybe six days. Yeah, the sooner the better, obviously.
Yeah.
Because we have events on there. There are events named on the card, as we said, that it's important that people get advance notice that these events are going to become available. Things like shredding, it's important to know in advance because you're saving up all your stuff out of your shredder, right? If you're, out of your newspaper and bags. Also from anything, you as much advance notice as you have, the better the collection's going to be. So the sooner the cards get out there, the better. The other point here is that this is not a one-time event. This is not a once-a-year event. This is probably a quarterly event or something similar to that, because you've got to, number one, keep reminding folks until they get on board to the collection center. Secondly, the events that Phil is planning need to get updated for each release of the card so that people are aware of this.
Will you be planning for the year come January 1st? So that, let's say we're going to have tax bills in December. Would we have the information to send out another mailing with the tax bill saying to 2025, these are the collection dates? I mean, that would be awesome because we take advantage of the opportunity through the tax bill. But it's just a start. The more they know and plan, the better it will be. I know you got a presentation coming up in October, but this getting more information out sooner is better than later, for sure.
And that's part of the impetus behind the events, is to show people what the collection center has and to set up these recurring events where people can plan on, okay, twice a year there's a shredding event, twice a year is the household hazardous waste,
Right.
twice a year there's a bulky event. In January they'll take my Christmas trees, just kind of utilize all these things for the benefit of the residents.
Okay. One of the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't have a problem with it, other than if you do one now, as we're saying with all the political stuff out there, is it, even though you've got events coming up, is it, when the pile comes in of 3 or 4, does it go into that pile and go into the trash without being looked at? It's kind of a bad time of the year.
Well,
It is. We're up against the calendar here.
Either way, yeah.
So we need to get as much out there, as much bang for the buck as we can, if you will.
I mean, I know I look at them and then distribute accordingly.
Yeah.
Well, it's usually political ones,
Exactly.
But if it's something else, I might take a look twice if it's.
If it's from the
chimney
town,
sweep, let's
if it's
say.
from the town and it's not a vote for me, it's probably going to get at least enough attention to say, I got to look at this closer.
And I guess my only caveat would be is we push it like a week and a half, so, because the primary is when?
September 10th.
10th, so there probably won't be many of those mailers after that date, at least
Well, for
there'll be
a
a little
week.
lull.
Right, well,
So
then
we
you'll have a
can
lull.
take advantage of that lull and.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. Yeah. Because the primary's 2 weeks from tomorrow. So if you get it to the printer by the 10th, then you'd be good to go.
The other suggestion, when I talked with Mark about this a little bit, would, speaking of the primary, of having, for the lack of a better word, a table there, as other groups do, with not necessarily the hard copy flyer, but a sheet of paper that can be done.
8.5 by 11,
internally,
decided.
and somebody there with it that would.
It would be to our advantage, if we can afford to do so, to have a small surplus of these cards. We can put them down in the clerk's office downstairs, we can put them in the library, we can put them in the post office. The post office, from prior experience of distributing the recycling data for the town, the information for the town, got really good results. That is, I was putting stacks of them in there that we had printed up, and they were disappearing in a couple of weeks. So there's interest in the town in doing this. We just have to reach everybody. My experience living in other communities in the past that have had, that have developed transfer station collection center capabilities is the amount of time it takes to get the information out and get results in terms of participation from the residents, you measure it in a couple of years, not in days, weeks, or months. It's just, it takes that long to change the paradigm of how people are used. They see that green toad out there, now we're gonna change that. So we gotta get the thinking turned around, and that's by education, and it's by keep telling people, reinforcing, what we're doing. And eventually, it's gonna come down to, before the contract, probably a couple of months, we're gonna have to probably, if we're successful in this, which I hope we are, is a statement to the residents that, your recycling tote's gonna go away.
That's gonna surprise a lot of people.
Well, it shouldn't, because we're gonna be leading, if we do a good job of communicating up to that point, it won't be as much as, some people are gonna be surprised. You always get that percentage
You
that are
always
gonna
have some
be.
clueless, Ed.
That's right.
Clueless in Kingston.
But we're looking at big we want the majority here. We want the majority of participation.
Okay.
So I'd make a motion that we approve for the mailings up to $1,200, not to exceed $1,200.
$1,200, okay.
In a
For
second,
the present one.
for this one here.
You've
This
got it.
one, okay.
To come out of where, Chuck? Which,
Well, I'll have to figure, between the two funds that we're talking about,
and those two funds are?
There is a solid waste
recycling.
task force recycling that has $1,000 in it. That I know Phil says it's more, but I thought the budget I saw Friday was $1,000. So, and there may be another line where we could take the other 200, but we have to determine that. I'm not saying we don't.
Okay.
I'm positive there's 1,000. I thought it was 1,007, but I could be wrong.
So the motion is for up to 1,200?
up to 1,200 to give them.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll take a look at, we'll get the specific numbers of post office boxes, and we'll calculate it as to whether we have the latitude of printing any extras beyond the single-family dwelling units and put those in. So if we have the extra money, we'd like to put it into the post office boxes.
I'll second it.
Thank you. The post office budget isn't always only Kingston, and there are people from surrounding community. I know from experience with the paper, so, but you do get a preponderance of community members who have PO boxes as well, so, for a variety of reasons. That's why I'd like to see us be able to do that, but maybe we can't, and we can't. We'll do it in budget for next year to do it accordingly, which is also why the tax bills are good, but in the meantime.
Why don't we include businesses? Because businesses probably recycle
Because
too.
businesses, correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, but businesses have a different pickup system. They have independent contractors or whatever. They're not in the town's contract.
Right, they're responsible for their own stuff.
Right.
Well, I understood, but if they're a business in Kingston, can't they utilize the collection center? You're saying no. Why? Okay.
Except that businesses have been recycling. There are businesses that recycle. Maybe they recycle at home, but they are recycling. Again, I'll speak for Carristown. I had 2 buckets, and we had newspapers. We recycled all the time. But that was a house next door, so the buckets were kind of placed strategically. I'm being upfront.
Since we had the trash totes out, there has been a lot more visibility on businesses with those totes.
Okay.
And many of them have been
Deprived of the opportunity?
at twice the cost of throwing out trash, yes.
Okay,
We took away their recycling.
okay. All right, we have a motion and a second, and is there further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
So we can go ahead and work with the printer and then get it into distribution.
You might want to work with the printer sooner rather than later. That way you have extra copies available to you on September 10th at the primary. Don't forget, we have a general election on November 5th. You might want to do.
Lisa's very good at, is communicating with this printer, so
Okay,
she'll
great.
handle that very well.
Okay, excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you very much, Chuck. Do
Okay,
you have any other questions for us?
I don't.
Not yet.
No. We have a bigger discussion coming up at some point, and I think maybe Phil's presentation in terms of what we're doing for this next contract. We
Okay.
do not want to get blindsided. We want to take control of what we're
Yeah,
doing.
it's my understanding that it takes a while to come up with a RFQ.
Well, depending on the vehicle, the town, if you're talking about the next contract, if you're talking about an RFQ or an RFP, there's a lot of preparation in either case that the town needs to do. And the resources for all of us volunteers and the town as well, because everybody's so stretched, it's going to take a lot of time to get this done. So we're looking at, I think we're probably looking at roughly about 16 months before that RFP, RFQ has to be out.
So soon, it should get started soon, is what I hear you saying.
I'm sorry?
It should get started pretty soon.
Yeah, and I think we've got Paula started on that. We've got a draft going on of it, but there's a lot of research that has to go into this, plus the legal review to make sure that we're good as
Okay.
normally.
Okay.
And then there's there's the release of the document, the RFP, the RFQ, and then it's the roundtables of getting the potential contractors in. I've talked to 3 of them already. To get, questions and answered, and then make the
Forward from
award.
there. Great. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next, I invite our department heads forward. Thank you, Chuck.
CIP.
Oh, yes, I do. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, and any boards and committees that want to speak, I know Lynn wants to talk to us from the planning board. You guys can come up anyways and get settled. You can ask her if you want. The next item is actually boards and committee chairs. Do Ruth or Lynn would like to come forward with any? Ruth said no, and Lynn, you have capital improvement plan you want to talk to? Come on forward. We won't hold you up anymore, and then we'll go to the department heads. Just grab the mic in front of Paul there.
So everyone's received their capital improvement forms. You need to get them into the capital improvement planning committee. We're pretty serious about it this year. One of the things in the forms that surprised me, because we actually have a capital improvement this year, was that they have to be approved by the selectmen before they come to CIP. So this would be your meeting to get them approved, because I think they're due by the end of the week. So
Due by the 29th, I believe.
yeah, something like that, the end of the week. I don't remember the date. I do know that what the planning board is coming forward with is to redo the master plan. The master plan was last approved in 2009. The statistics used for that master plan were from 2000 and 2000 to 2005. Very often having a master plan is a requirement of getting some grants for the town. And obviously, when I went through the master plan myself and went through our goals and saw what they were, many of them have already been achieved, many of them have not, but our goals as a town have completely changed. So it's really time to get involved with the process. We shouldn't be using data that's 20 years old, and it is expensive. I believe it's $6,000 a chapter. There are 9 chapters, and it cannot be accomplished in 1 year. It'll take more than 1 year. But the critical chapters, I think there's 6 of them that have to get done right away. 3 of them were done later and aren't as important, but 6 really need to get done right away. So we went forward with the entire amount in the capital improvement plan, and it would be up to the capital improvement committee and the selectmen to decide how to divvy that up. But with the town demographics changing, with the number of households changing, one of the goals was to have more condominiums, which has certainly happened in town. But everything in there is just so outdated that it's a useless document at this point.
Lynn, I'm sorry.
Let's go ahead. No?
The one thing, and I agree that it's long overdue to be updated, and master plans can be updated a chapter at a time. You don't have to bite the whole apple together, but the one thing I don't see on here is where you're suggesting that the cost be paid from, a warrant article or budget item or grant, and usually that's one
We were going to ask for it as a budget item in our budget for this year.
Okay.
I would suggest leaving it in the budget.
Yeah.
And see.
That was our
hopefully
plan.
the budget committee will
Take a
go
stab
along.
at it.
Yeah. Even if it's half this year and half next
Yep.
year, I can understand that as well because of the cost, but,
And we know you're all being blindsided because nobody's talked about this in so long.
right, that's true.
But it came up when we were looking at some grants and some other things, and it was like, oh my God, this should have been done a long time ago. I know COVID got in the way. I know we talked about it maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and a lot of things got in the way of getting that accomplished, but it's well overdue.
Yeah, it's usually recommended between 5 and 10 years to do an update. And I mean, like we're not different than most towns that because it costs a lot of money, most towns are not on a 10-year schedule. They end up going longer. But we did a slight update in.
There's a couple of things that have been updated. The heritage portion is newer.
It was a new chapter. Yep.
And I think was it land use or one of the other chapters was updated like in 2016 or something like that.
Yep.
So those are our newer chapters. We don't need to get to those right away, but this should be the guiding document as the town talks about what they need for capital improvements, what they need to move forward, where's our population, how many are, elderly, what kind of services are they going to need, how many are young, all those kinds of things. This should be a guiding document for the town as it moves forward in all of its decision-making.
So the capital improvement plan that the board needs to approve before it goes to committee is the one that we have for 24, 29.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And if we didn't agree with something, we would make note of that to the planning board?
I think you probably want to let the planning board know, but you need to let the CIP subcommittee know. So the CIP.
Before the planning board?
The CIP subcommittee looks at it first.
Yep.
And then they bring it to the planning board.
Okay.
For approval.
Okay.
So it would start there and then go to the planning board and then move forward.
And who is on the CIP committee?
Robin Duguay, Glenn Greenwood. There's a representative, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, from the budget committee.
So we would contact Glenn Greenwood if he had.
Glenn is the person you need to get in touch with, yeah.
Okay.
There are representatives from Planning Board, Municipal Budget Committee, and typically Select Board has a rep on there as well.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Great. Because if I wanted to cut Phil's request in half, we could do that, right?
Yes, you can. I think that's a great idea.
I don't know. I was just busting your chops a little bit, that's all.
Yeah, but they do have to have I think the whole idea of having the select board look at this is that you need to know what's going on, what people are asking for.
That's correct.
And have your own priorities moving forward as you're looking at it, and can certainly communicate that with the CIP committee.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I don't believe we have any other committees. Okay. All right, we'll start with Chief Graham. How's that? Get you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The only thing I have today is the Kingston Volunteer Fire Association is interested in making a donation to the fire department in terms of a 4-door Polaris Ranger. Right now we have an old military Gator, we have an older side-by-side that were handed down from the police department years ago. So they kind of meet our needs, but not to what we would want them to be in terms of response to the several miles of walking trails that we have, forest fires, that sort of stuff. So one, I'm asking if the board would accept that donation into inventory for the fire department, and two, to see, and I know Phil and I had talked a little bit this morning, but to see what we could get for a trade-in on those 2 vehicles to bring down the cost. The Polaris Ranger 4-door fully enclosed cab is about $30,000. So.
And which 2 vehicles would you want
The
to
side-by-side and the Gator.
Okay. Well, that's quite
And
a generous.
Phil and I will talk after, after the meeting or whatever, but that's if Phil doesn't need them.
That's a very generous donation from the Fire Auxiliary.
The association.
Excuse me, Fire Association. That's great. We're gonna do some publicity on that, I'm assuming?
Yeah, one of they made a motion last week at our meeting. One of the not stipulation, but conditions, I guess, was that when we take delivery of the unit, that we kind of bring it over here on a Monday night and have a picture and put it on social media, all that stuff. Just, to let the townspeople know that when we do the Summer Fest or the Brew Fest or whatever, that's, your money's going back to the town.
Right.
Which is the mission statement of the association.
Right, that's great. Glenn?
So this is it's going to replace the 2 others. So presumably any money that's in the budget for maintenance, insurance, et cetera, would now be taken over by this one instead of for those 2.
Yes. Yeah, it would still need, I'm getting a quote from a resident that works for an emergency lighting company. So it's gonna need some lights, and I have a radio that we're gonna put in it, so it needs minimal work done to get it to exactly what we need, but that's all well within my budget.
Except that if we don't trade those 2 vehicles and it stays with the highway department, you'd still have the maintenance costs accordingly.
Yeah, the Gator would be the one we're looking at.
Okay.
We have some work coming up on the trails.
Yeah. Microphone.
Bringing material in is difficult given the width issue, so the Gator would be the only way we could bring material in. So I'm just trying to figure out what we have for functioning vehicles there, but it would just be that one.
Okay, so one of the 2 would definitely be traded in, and you would want.
And again, talking to Plastow Power Sports, which is the company we're using, they said the market for used utility vehicles isn't great right now. So if they're only gonna give us $500 for it, then we'll probably just keep it, because, the Trails Committee does use it sometimes, and, you know, Phil can use it for picking up sticks in the planes or whatever, so, not Phil, but his guys.
Or gals.
Yep, and like during Summerfest and Kingston Days, hopefully when Kingston Days comes back, you know, they can be used to pick up trash and all that good stuff. So, you know, if it's only gonna be traded in if it's worth the trade.
Do I have a motion?
I'd make a motion to, the fire department accept a donation of up to $30,000 from the Fire Association.
For the side-by-side?
I'll second it, but I think it's a donation, and I don't think we should put a cap on that fee, because if it's 31 and change, it doesn't affect
Well,
us.
the only reason I'm putting a cap on it is if they trade something in and get $2,000 for it, then.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I think it would
But
be
if they
just
get
that they need 28, I don't know, whatever you want to do.
yeah,
I wouldn't put a dollar amount, I would say just accept the
gift.
donation from the Fire Association for the side-by-side.
correct.
Polaris Ranger.
Polaris Ranger, thank you.
Yes.
I don't want to.
Then someone else will make the motion.
That's fine.
Okay.
I second that.
And Peter seconded. Is there further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, noes. Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
That's all I
Thank you,
have. Thank you.
Association. Okay. Mrs. Bakey.
Good morning. Just want to let you know that the vault under the stairs has been emptied, with the exception of a file cabinet that has some things for the trustees of the trust fund that I wasn't comfortable putting out here. So that stuff over there has been gone through, they want to keep. There's some other boxes over there that Lynn Merrill wants to go through, but the majority of it has been gone through. It was brought down to the shredding event, it's gone. So the vault, Phil and I have talked about taking the file cabinets out because half of them don't work, and maybe painting. Tom, the electrical inspector, is going to put a new light in. He'll be coming to you for the PO because that little teeny light is not very bright.
Or safe, probably.
I'm sorry?
Or safe.
Or safe, yeah, yeah. So I have left the door open for the last couple of weeks, and it's not really bad smelling in there. So the musty smell. So and Joel's going to look for some new file cabinets for me that might be not as deep, so you can actually get in there, pull a drawer out, and still be able to walk around. So, like I said, those need to be gone through by the planning board. Phil wants to look at those maps one more time, and then we'll put them all away. Phil's going to talk more about the chairs left over. I would like to talk to the selectmen about signage downstairs.
Okay, what about
The
it?
signs that are there are wrong.
Okay.
And I'd like some better signage that says town clerk. If you would be amazed at how many people interrupt Tori to say, I want to register my car. And she asked the next window on the left, next window. So maybe a sign up high that says town clerk.
Yeah, hang it like you
Hang it
normal
from the
town.
ceiling, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of normal places
Maybe
have that.
you know, the sign at the front, when you walk in, there's a sign, and I watch people, they look at it, and it says like finances downstairs. So
Right, right.
that has never been changed, so I'd like the selectmen to.
That
maybe-
foyer, the signage in that foyer needs to be updated.
Yes,
Can
and
you,
maybe something like that hangs, or that, I don't know, that's on the, something that will point you to the town clerk instead of interrupting Tori.
and so I'm gonna make that your responsibility to put a plan together for us. How's that
I'll do
sound?
that.
And I know you'll get it done in 30 seconds flat.
will.
You probably have it half organized already.
So, yeah, I've been called a driver before.
No, it's a beautiful
Yes,
thing.
yes.
So the election is coming up. The ballot clerk training is this Wednesday night. We have over 30 people attending.
Excellent.
The testing for the voting tabulator is going to be Thursday the 29th. Anyone can come watch it. We're excited.
And I ran into Barry Sargent the other day. He'd like to come to the ballot. If you can contact him.
I will.
He said he wanted to see how the ballot boxes were tested.
Perfect.
So,
And a reminder, on September 9th, we close at 5 o'clock in preparation of the election. That's a Monday night, so we're not open till 7. We're closed all day on the 10th, and then on the 11th, we're going to open at noon.
correct.
Just because sometimes we don't get home till after midnight. And that's it. Have a happy and safe Labor Day weekend.
Except that we, this would be an appropriate time to bring up changing Shannon to full-time to fill that position that's available and approved by the voters.
Okay?
Okay, would you?
So I went to the selectmen this morning and asked to change Shannon to full-time. That's always been a part-time, that's always been a full-time position, but the person that was filling that position could only work 32 hours, so I'd like to change it so that she does.
She goes full-time.
She goes full-time.
And the money's in the your
The money
your
is in the
budget.
budget, the insurance, all the benefits have already been, is in my budget.
And if the position is approved by the town by previous warrant.
Back eons ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll entertain a motion to approve that change.
I make a motion to approve the hours from part-time to full-time for Shannon at the town clerk's office.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes
Thank you
have
very
it, and thank her very much for stepping up. It'd be great. Okay, next item, Mr. Butler, our Recreation Director.
Good morning. We have a few activities coming up. We have, for seniors, a cruise on Lake Winnipesaukee. We still have some spaces. We have on September 18th, that's on October 7th. On September 18th, we have a trail hike in Tucker and French Forest there. And then we have trunk or treat coming up on October 15th. The only other thing I have is that I talked to the board about adding, it's the person who's the camp director now, or has been the past 2 years, but add him in to the rec at 4 hours a week, with the purpose of that being that I could educate him on what we do throughout the year, and then possibly increase the hours for the recreation program so the program can grow, which is what I've always understood is my job is to try to improve recreation, more opportunities. So that was approved, and I guess we need to approve that at the board meeting today.
Correct.
And he's still interested after you had the conversation?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to bring on an assistant camp director for 4 hours per week. And the funds are in the budget, in the camp budget, the Recreation Committee budget.
So moved.
And
Second.
Second. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Ayes have it, passes unanimously. Thank you, Paul. You're all set, Chief Johnson.
Morning. Everything's pretty much status quo with the PD, with the exception of Saturday night. You probably saw on the Kingston page, the keyboard warriors decided to complain about 12 officers showing up to a noise complaint down on Chisholm and Main Street. What actually happened, so I'll set the record straight. One of my officers saw a party going on and it was getting loud earlier in the day. He said, guys, just keep it down. Everything was fine.
And what street was this on?
What's that?
Where was this?
Chisholm and Main Street.
Okay, I know you got, yep.
So, around 11:30, the officer got a complaint of loud noise again. So he went over there to shut him down. And the reason there were 12 cops, 12 cruisers there, was because when my officer approached them, they attacked him, sucker punched him, and he called for backup. So when you touch an officer, you're gonna have every officer in the state of New Hampshire come to that scene and clean up the mess, okay? They were very professional throughout the whole incident. They arrested 2 individuals, and they will be prosecuted. So for all the keyboard warriors out there, know what you're talking about. Because it really, really ticks me off, okay? So, that's it.
Well, remember Saint, God rest his souls, Rich St. Hilaire always called it face witch.
Yeah, well, they don't know.
Or other things, but that's the one that's
I
appropriate.
just want to set the record straight for
Thank you.
you people and townspeople that read all that stuff.
And the officer's okay?
we're doing an injury report because he took the shot in the back of the head.
No kidding.
So he was a little dizzy toward the end of the night. But at the end of the day, we gotta take care of him.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Johnson? Thank you, Chief. I hope he does well, right, officer. Okay, Mr. Coombs, Highway Department.
Okay, I guess I'll just start here. The chairs in the meeting room, we've been upgraded. So the maroon chairs without wheels are going into the voting trailer. There's 5 of those, but any of the ones left in here, if any of the departments need them, they'll have till Friday to come grab anything you need for your building or department. Otherwise, they will be gone after that, so.
Did you find a new home for him?
Yep, the dumpster sitting in our parking lot.
Okay.
I'm actually gonna try and get rid of some of them, so, but I want to know what was left, so now that I do, I will.
Be sure to touch base with the library, just in case they need a few extra ones, but not the ones with the rollers necessarily, but the others. Because Melissa's not here this morning to remind her, but add that on. Great, thank you.
Just an update on the front stairs. The progress set was sent over to me this morning with the drawings. The outstanding question on that is whether we want stainless steel railings or powder coated black railings, or any other color for that matter. But stainless steel would be the cheaper option, and it had been discussed before, but just want to give them an answer so they can proceed.
Which ones will weather the winter better?
Stainless steel.
Oh, stainless steel will. Any sense for what the difference in, other than color, styling is like?
So it's just a rounded out, it's not like the old style, it's just, you know, your typical round bowed out. No idea what the name of that is.
Stuff they make grab bars with.
As opposed to the black?
Pass that over. You can ruminate on that. I was gonna shoot for the 9th for them to come to do a presentation to the board. That doesn't seem like a good idea for having voting the next day, because the other part of that was going to be is grabbing the employees of the town hall and just reviewing their workspace so that we would cut down on the number of times that SMP had to come here so they could present to the board and have a listening session at the same time. So the goal was going to be 4:30 on Monday to have that, and then they could be here to speak to you about the stairs, do the final presentation on that. But I don't know what, I mean, obviously time is of the essence on this.
Right.
Phil, I mean, I'm not gonna be closing, I'm closing the office at 5 to the public, but I'll still be around. I got checklists to do and stuff,
Okay.
So go ahead and do it, get it moving.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that we would say stainless steel, right?
Not necessarily.
Well,
Well, we don't know how much how big a difference? $100, $1,000?
I have absolutely no idea. It was enough for him to mention it as an issue, so I'm guessing it's
Substantial. Well, what did my colleagues say?
I feel like someone from the historic district might want to.
I know, we're not going down that road.
For
No.
aesthetics, because it is in the district, so I'm just putting it out there.
I'm sure.
We should get a price. We should get a price, we can make a decision. I think that's not really what to do it, right?
Yeah, because I would go with the black. and say, that's
I
what
as
we've
well.
got now, and I like that.
Yeah,
So
it looks a little better
if it's a
than-
big difference, it's a different story, but
we need to talk about it.
my caution on that would be that anything powder coated can get chipped, dinged, and
aren't these powder coated? The ones we have that they're not being used now because the stairs have eroded, but the railings.
but you
didn't
can see there's chips and dings on them and rusted parts. I don't know that they're stainless steel underneath, but
Okay.
stainless is easy and final, but
Okay. Just get us a quick price, get approximation.
okay.
So we have an idea. And you could even have Susan email the board if it holds you up before the 9th, and blind copy each of us so we can make a decision on it.
Okay,
How's that
will
sound?
do.
Great.
Just an update on the road work. So we're still doing the fine grading on Beach, Winslow Park, and Webster's Landing. Paving will start there tomorrow and should be wrapped up hopefully Wednesday afternoon. So that should be it for paving for the year. The SAM chip rubber seal took place on Friday and Saturday. They will be back in 2 weeks to do a final sweeping. So it's substantially less than the conventional chip seal as far as what's flying off the road in my experience driving up and down it. I encourage everybody to take a ride on it. But anyway, any residual that's still on there will be swept up in about 2 weeks, and you have a PO in front of you for line striping. Once that final sweeping takes place is when we're going to try and schedule the line striping to take place on Ball and Rockrimmon and the rest of the town. But wanted to get that done first. The shoulder gravel hopefully will not be a November adventure this year. The contractor does seem to think that they can get in probably by the end of September, so we're getting into that before the leaves fly and the pine duff is on there. That's kind of the biggest thing with that. So the other thing, we're hoping by the end of the week, possibly beginning of next week, to start on the excavation for the pickleball court. We've got that all, I'm sorry, the multi-use hard area in the Rich St. Hilaire recreation area. So that's been all laid out. We spent some time last week going over that. And other big thing is we did sign up for Irving Oil, locked in pricing for the year. They are willing to grant a waiver on the tank for another year, so we don't have to do anything on that. That took some time to get that worked out, but they're good with it, so.
How was their price, Phil?
Excellent. Every year, we typically call around to some other oil and gas providers just as a sanity check on what we're signing up for, and they were all like, will they deliver to us? So we got a good rate on both gas and oil. That has not been fully executed, that though. We signed our side of it last Monday, but we're waiting on the executed contract, but the information was sent to finance so people can use that in their budgets. Buildings and grounds is very busy right now, taking care of the grounds more than the buildings. So unless it's an emergency thing for inside work, we ask that you just hold off on that. And we're not picking on you or anything. I've got 2 guys to mow a lot of land and do a lot of other projects that we're trying to get done before it gets cold. So a lot of painting projects outside, things like that. So just be patient with us on that one. And then the defibrillator in the library. I know we were looking at getting parts for that or something, but there seems to be
that's the first I'm hearing of it. When I talked to Melissa, when we got new AEDs for all the town buildings, they said they were all set.
They're not all set.
Okay.
The battery's dead, it's not functional, so.
I'll send one of the guys down, or Kelly down, to look at it and see if we can get parts for it. Assuming that will come out of their budget? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll see what model it is and call my reps and see what we can do.
Okay. That's all I got. Oh, sorry, one more thing. I did meet with the UNH T-squared program and the state DOT. There's a class I took last year as the local road safety advocate. So it was multiple weeks of training, trying to get us funding for making intersections and things like that safer around town. So they're interested in using Kingston as, I don't want to call it a pilot program, but one of their kind of test models for helping us get the funding and do the paperwork to do these programs. And the state DOT has set up a new kind of directorate that deals directly with safety. It's their primary mission. There's an engineer in charge of it, and she came down and we met. So it does seem like a great program. I was able to get crash data from the PD and identify some of our frequent flyer intersections. most of which are on, abut state roads, so it's good to have them pulled into it. So couple things to work out on that as far as what it's going to entail, but most of the heavy lifting should be done by the T-squared folks as far as the paperwork aspect of it, and then the rest of it I've gotten training on. So hopefully that'll be a low-cost way for us to make our streets safer.
Great, that sounds good. Any questions for Phil?
Just one.
Yeah.
Phil, did you want to update folks on the little meeting, the little gathering that we had regarding the Grace Daily, or do you want me to do it later in my comments?
I've been told I talk too much, so Glenn, I leave it to you.
Well, we have an agenda down on the old business is an update on the state shed. Do we need to do, remember, they approached us to see if we wanted to buy it or lease it or whatever, and where are we with that?
I know we kind of gave them a poke a month and a half ago, and they were going to recheck with legal over there. They were waiting on DES legal to.
That's the last we have.
Can we give them another poke? It'd be nice if you could secure it, because the more we invest in that section for a collection center, I don't want us to go halfway down the road and then they pull the plug.
Absolutely, and I've been very conscious of that.
Okay.
Trying not to put anything in there. More just trying to pull stuff out than anything else, but yes, I will engage with them again.
Just kind of follow up a little. Thank you.
Yep.
I do have one question. I had a call from someone who lives on Great Pond Road, and they said they called you about paving that road, and you told them that it's up to the select board. So I'm bringing that question to the meeting.
On the capital improvement plan last year, and it will be on this year's capital improvement plan, I put forth a proposal for engineering for that neighborhood. There are significant considerations that need to be taken into account before we do any road work or infrastructure work down there. The cost is substantial for that work, at least the estimate that I received, but and as I explained to the resident, that actually there were a few people who have called because they feel like the ugly kid out in the whole deal. But to pave down there at this point would be something we're gonna have to rip up within 5 to 10 years. So, and there are numerous, the road was never really put together all that well. Those are seasonal camps down there, and it's just been kind of its own momentum grown from that. So that is one of the priority CIP items that I am putting before the board is to just get an engineered plan so that we can at least take it in smaller bites and do, the main road going in. But, and I have been telling residents that is coming up, so you may hear from more of them on that.
Any other questions? Is Paul all set with the contracts on the Irvings and stuff like that? You get everything up to date with her?
Yeah, as per the board, I believe it was 2 years ago, you gave me the authority to sign for that, just because it's every day the price changes, so just for the matter of speed there. But as I said, we haven't received the executed contract back.
Okay.
But I did send her the agreed upon numbers, at least for budgetary planning purposes.
Okay, good.
We're hoping it should be any day. I mean, usually it's a week turnaround with them. So.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Phil? And last but certainly not least, Mr. Pedro Avila, our building inspector.
Hi, good morning, everybody. First, I will start. We are obviously in the very busy season. We just got last week, as of Thursday, 8 new septic applications. Out of those, 2 were denied because of seasonal hot water table not being in compliance with our ordinances. Building permits were also very busy. We got 17 new applications as of last week. There have been a couple also denied due to no compliance with setbacks and things of that nature that we might need to resort to seek relief from the zoning ordinances. And I've been also working with several individuals that want to do a couple of ADUs, accessory dwelling units, which are for some of them claim are for their parents and family members that they want to take care of. Some of them are detached, also requires conditional use permits, which requires to go to the board, requires for me to sit down with them, explain and go through the ordinance, show them what are the aspects of the ordinance that have to be complied with, safety, life and safety matters, and things of that nature. With regards to the state, I want to make publicly, and for the public out there to hear, the Governor Sununu, as of August 2nd, signed into law House Bill 514, which is the adoption of the 2021 State Building Code. It's already part of our laws. We are in the concurrence period. What that means is we will allow for applicants, residents, and individuals to choose whether they want to submit an application between now and December, up to December 31st, to do work within the 2018 edition of the code or the 2021 edition of the code. A lot of changes in the code. Restrictions with regards to span have changed very drastically. What used to be a 2x10 spanning 12 feet, now it span no more than 10'6". So those are things that pertain to life and safety matters and other structural matters of the code. Also, we have been getting a lot of applications for solar arrays and things of that nature, which bring the conversation that I was having with President of Revision. We did have a difference of ideas and opinion with regards to the code, which prompted me to reach out to Phil Sherman. He is the Building Code Review Board Chair. There is an amendment on the solar arrays that was done on the adoption of the 2018 edition of the code, which have been carried, but there have been modifications done to it. He understands that the town was being more restrictive, and hence the need of a public hearing on that to make the public aware that the town is a little bit more restrictive, but we are not more restrictive. We are in compliance with the state code with regards to what it requires. The problem is that across the board, most people like to go by the word of mouth and not reading the building code or the commentary. So when you approach different municipalities, they have their own ideas and opinions. And everything is being drawn back to, it is the responsibility of the ASJ to make a determination. ASJ is the authority having jurisdiction. Me, I don't, it seems too finger critic on doing things. But I like to be clear with people, and I'm doing it the same way with everybody. We were approached beginning of the year by CISOC 3 Solar and other companies with regards to solar arrays and safety path or pathways, and that pertains to safety. And the whole idea of the pathways is to save the firefighters accessing the roof to safeguard the life of somebody that is in danger. So I'm very cautious with that. I don't like to give leeway on that, because at the end of the day, we put in danger our fire department personnel, and that's not what we want to do, at least on my end. That's not what I want to see. I don't want for me to be very laid back on that and that something happened to a firefighter of ours. So we are working on all those aspects of the building code. Also, we are addressing whatever we have in the ordinance. As an example of that is our ordinance required that we have 2 means of egress in the residential building environment. Per code, you are only required 1. If it's something that we want to, if it is something that we want to keep, we need to submit that to be reviewed by the Building Code Review Board at state level, and it has to be approved as an amendment for the town. We cannot enforce that because as of July 1st, there was also a bill that was passed by Senate and the state, which requires any town modification of the state building code to be reviewed by the Building Code Review Board and approved prior to enforcement. So that's one thing that it has to be mitigated. I'm working very diligent on that, but because of the many things we have in the ordinance that address code issues. And I have only until the 30th of this month. That's why I haven't been able to submit weekly reports, because I only have a very short time to make sure that I have everything listed and in a non-public setting, because this pertains to the building aspect of things, address you via email and probably say, this is what we have, do we want to keep it? And if so, then I'll submit then my letter to the state for review and for them to say yay or nay, we can keep it. Does that. We are finally getting to backdoor training for online permitting software. So this Thursday at 1 p.m. we will have all the departments be part of the training, so that we can start that permitting. The whole idea with that permitting is that the public can get more communication, and that hopefully helps decrease the load of calls that we have in the department requesting and of I submitted the permit last week, or I submitted the permit 10 days ago, or things of that nature, because I do understand, but there is a process, and perhaps they have a different opinion that that process should be shortened, but the process has to be complied with, because if we rush to things, that's when mistakes are made, and those translate to the field and create several other issues that we don't want to be involved in. I'm also in communication with the DES. On beginning of this year, I received an application which I denied the permit on 28 morning of. Sadly, the health officer at the time approved septic construction on that site. The whole lot is within the shoreline buffer, which makes reason why that lot was deemed unbuildable in the first place. But by render an approval on any kind of improvement to that lot, we kind of look the other way with regards to the buildability of that lot. DES got involved in this, and they called conservation on that. And conservation and I had a meeting last week. I went through the whole process, explained the whole details of what's going on. I actually rescinded the health officer approval, which the applicant and the contractor felt that I was outside of my jurisdiction, and it was called
He
many
didn't
things.
think the water bubbling up was appropriate?
They didn't feel that the pond that they were creating was enough for them to know that there was an issue. So again, there are many backdoors issues that I'm dealing with. They're moving along. With regards to code enforcement, I've been trying to more have a proactive communication with the homeowner, tell them what's going on, and if they can solve it on their own, because right now, code enforcement is not at the top of the plate with the problems that we have within the town, and we need to be proactive to those. And I understand it might be a burden for the residents. It's not that we're looking the other way with their problems, but right now there are life safety and other environmental impacts that are going on in town that we want to make sure that we address those, because those are very delicate items. In another turn of events, I was reached by the International Code Council with regards to a grant opportunity. There is a federal grant for urban development, small town development, towns with 10,000 and less resident, and they're trying to inject those towns to get into the new environmental building and things of that nature. And they're trying to give grants for the construction, reconstruction, modifications, alterations of existing and new structures, so that they can comply with a more restrictive condition with regards to the Energy Conservation Code. And they're looking to upwards of 10 million to give the grant to the town. It's going to be a very involved process. But I mean, I'm looking at the idea. I don't know if we have the time right now to apply for the grant. If there is time, then I'll definitely jump in. I believe it's beneficial to the town. And one thing they're asking is that we can get as many as developers within the town to participate, because what they want is to educate the local developers and contractors in regards to the new age of the code, the benefits of the energy conservation, and things of that nature. Then I'm also, I need to recertify by January. I need 22 hours. So to reflect that, 22 hours, 1 hour of training signifies 0.1 hour. So I need to reach out to 22 tomorrow. There is an International Code Council training that I will be taking the whole day, that I need to do it in order to receive certified January, and that's going to give me at least 1 hour of what I need for the 22. I haven't been able to tackle on all the trainings because we have been busy, and I have to skip some trainings because I need to address the things that were going in the town. But it's a doable thing between that and the New Hampshire Building Officials Association. And with that being said, I believe I have taken a really good share of time. I don't know if you have any questions.
You have one more thing to do.
Go ahead.
Deputy Health inspector.
Yes. So we interviewed candidates for the position of the deputy health inspector. Right now, I wanted to recommend to the board one of the candidates and see how those how that guide us through and probably have that individual offer the position.
Okay. What's your pleasure, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. Bakey?
Basically making a motion on our meeting earlier. So we were presented with Kevin Schultz.
Kevin Schultz.
Kevin Schultz, I believe, lives over in Fremont, New Hampshire, just over the border. And I think he'd be a great asset. Pedro explained how he's well-versed in a lot of his departments, not just as a health officer. And I think he'd be a good fit for the hours that they discussed. Do we want to talk about, we don't have to talk about money, correct? No.
You need to make a motion that we hire him?
Yes, but do we need to talk about salary? I'm making a motion, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But should we bring up the money?
Yes, I would say yes.
I think we should.
I think that's more a private
Yeah.
item.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion that we,
I'm looking to Susan, but she's not, she's
Yeah, I'm gonna-
busy writing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make a motion that we
hire.
we accept the application that was put forward by Pedro to hire Kevin Schultz, the deputy health officer's position in the town,
Part-time.
part-time,
For up to 20
up to
hours a
20
week.
hours a week.
And there's a probationary period.
For a 6-month probationary period.
6-month probationary period.
Is there a second? Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Welcome, Mr. Schultz aboard. Okay, any other questions for Pedro? Great. Well, good, thank you.
Just, you might,
What?
once he comes on board, we might set him up to come in, or bring him in on a meeting, so we can actually
Meet him,
Most
put a
definitely.
face to the name and,
Most definitely.
okay.
especially at a department head meeting, we might be there during the day. Okay, so we're gonna go on to old business.
One last thing before we leave
Oh,
here.
sure, yeah.
So,
Did I forget something?
if I'm not mistaken, just a reminder to all department heads and committee budgets are due to Paula by Wednesday.
All right.
And she's gonna make an appointment to go over them with you while you turn them in, but they have to be into her by Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah, she's on vacation right now. She'll be back tomorrow.
Yep, but I think they discussed that in the past, that date, they had to be in by that date.
Okay.
So reminder.
Yep, if you get any questions, just give her a buzz. Okay, the department heads are welcome to stay or leave as you so choose. And as I said, Graham, you'll have an email from us this afternoon, but it's all, should be all set, okay? And we can talk later. Thank you, Mr. Pedro. We're gonna go on, anybody need a break for a few minutes, or we're good to go? Okay. Oh, public comment, yeah, one.
Bill, do you want this sheet back?
Okay.
All right.
Any public comment at this time? Pam? Mrs. Brown? Ms. Brown?
Hi, Pam Brown, 23 Sunshine Drive. I just came up to try out the new chairs. They're very good, so thank you so much. Actually, I have a quick one. When it comes to the new master plan, I noticed in the news this summer that there was an article about Hampton, and I know it's a big job and there's grant money available, that an article says local zoning sovereignty on its way out in Hampton, New Hampshire. So we need to make sure we maintain local control over our master plan as we develop it, because there is money available, and outside organizations such as the Rockingham Planning Commission has offered grants to cover the costs of developing new master plans, $9,000 funded by the American Rescue Plan Funds, the ARPA, and apparently it has strings attached. They will hire an outside consultant to help you amend your zoning laws and so forth, along with the master plan. And they do have their own consultants that would like certain things done, and you are surrendering some of your sovereignty. So I can send this article to you. I also send it to someone on the planning board as well. So just something to think about. I'm concerned about what the grant includes in terms of fine print.
Yeah. Thank you. Please share the information with
Sure.
us, that'd be great. Thank
And
you,
I'd be
ma'am.
happy to, well, maybe happy is the wrong word, but I'd be willing to serve on the new committee that we're developing, the capital improvement committee, so.
I don't think it's a new committee, but,
They may have a seat, I'll see if I
but
can.
I'll let Lynn Merrill know that you're available if she needs some help in that committee.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you all for what you're doing, all the work you're doing, thank you.
Just a quick comment that
Sure.
when it comes to doing a master plan, I mean, most communities do have outside help, but that the process and all of the content is vetted through the boards and through public hearings, and it is a document of the town, but because it's such a large task, most towns don't have the capacity to do all of the writing and to put it all together, and so that's what they hire consultants to help with, so.
Okay.
But anyway.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along, we're going to go on to charitable exemption status. And which one do we want to handle first?
Ducks on the Pond is the next one on the agenda.
All right, well, let's, well, the first, we don't have Gideon on here, let's, oh,
Yeah,
we do, we do.
It's the next one.
And Ellie has an update.
I do on Gideon, on Doxa too. Hold on a second. Ducks on the Pond is the one that we had a meeting with council on, and you have a memo on that as well, and there are a couple of ways to go. One of the challenges in reviewing this request for an exemption is that the multiple organizations that fall under that umbrella, they're all intertwined. And we can direct council to do a little more in-depth research on kind of extricating some of those challenges for more, in-depth legal review. And you're talking about $1,000 to $1,300 cost. There are other communities that have similar situations. They have gone to court. They've not necessarily been successful. The difficulty, the challenge lies in the fact that the organization that owns the land is the umbrella for all the nonprofits within.
And it's a real estate company.
And it's a real estate company, that is correct. But all their the interior groups are all nonprofits.
That, as we understand it, I believe, lease space.
Correct.
From the realty company.
Correct.
Yes.
But the boards on those are also on the boards of Duck on the Pond.
That's correct, and that's where all the intertwining comes.
Correct. So our option is to continue the tax exemption that they have, or in the meantime, at least defer it to council for a little more in-depth study to see if there's a way to extricate or establish like percentages, maybe there's 30, 30, and 30, which only leaves 10% of tax valuation. Depends on whether we want to do that. That's up to you guys. So that's why it's before you.
My thought would be to not go any further with the town council, spending that money basing, I was actually listening, I was there when they had the conversation, and, without getting into a lot of detail, the fact is that most towns did not fare well in the lawsuits. Yeah. And the cost, money and back taxes, et cetera. And she has pretty well spelled out, it's a 75-25 scenario. So I would not be in favor of spending any more money. I would be in favor of continuing on with it, although we have to first vote on the late application fee first, which is the first step.
Correct.
But be that as it may, I'm not in favor of spending any more money based on the information that I heard.
Other comments? Laurie? Glenn?
So Ellie, you raised a good point. So there's multiple companies that rent space in this building
Yes.
that are, in theory, eligible for exemption, but they're
Correct.
not because they're not owners. But there's also a small portion that it would not be eligible.
That might not be eligible. And the only way we would know that is if we invested in attorney's fees to determine. It is very complicated.
Yeah.
I kind of tend to agree with Chuck. I'm not sure it's going to be worth a 10% reduction in the taxes. They, for all intents and purposes, do what they say they do.
Okay.
So I'm leaning more towards letting this one go. Even though the application is late, we'd have to vote to not hold that against them, so to speak, for this year anyways, and move forward and reinstate their tax exempt status.
And we had another case of a late filing, and what did we do with that? I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
Well, I think it was the Church on the Plains. What did
We
we do with
waived it,
that?
we waived it. Yeah.
So we allowed them to put paperwork in late?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so we should have done, as the attorney says this time, accepted the late application due to accident, mistake, or misfortune.
Yeah.
Ducks on the Pond is saying the misfortune was that they weren't alerted ahead of time as they were in the past, so they didn't realize they had to put it in.
Yeah, we would have two motions. The first one would be to accept the late application.
So
we might want to do them all, list them.
Right, so I feel, right, yes, we have to take motion on that. But moving forward, all of these organizations who are claiming we didn't do it because you didn't tell us to do it, so in the future, here's your notice that you have to do it, or are we gonna send out reminders that they need to do it?
I think it wouldn't hurt to send out the reminders again.
One more time.
Yeah.
I'm not in favor of sending reminders every year. They
Right.
need to do, they have to file taxes every April
It's their
anyways.
It
responsibility.
is their responsibility, but, you know, we
Right.
had done it in the past. It's not a huge chore, but.
Let's do it one more time, and then, and somewhere in that letter to say,
This is it.
this is it, from now on, you're
Every
expected
year.
to file
Yeah.
every April 1st that you would with the IRS.
Right, okay, all right, just want to
Yeah,
throw that
I
out
don't mind one more time, but I don't want to do it forever, because the burden should not be on us. If they want to maintain their tax exempt status, they need to file the forms.
It's to their benefit to do it, so
Exactly
I would think they
correct.
would be on top of it.
Okay,
So I would make a motion that we accept the late application.
and a second,
Second.
thank you. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. So one dissenter. Next, it does pass, though.
So I
Chuck,
would-
keep going.
Yeah, I would make a motion, let's see, how did she? I'll find where she wrote it.
You got it?
Is it on that one?
There's probably an example of the motion to,
Well, the second would be to grant the tax exemption.
That's probably fine. I thought there was more something there. but
No.
That's,
do you want to reinstate it? I think you denied it based on the initial recommendation,
Okay, so
so.
to reinstate their tax exemption status, and they would have to file annually
second.
every year. Okay, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, so 3 yeses, 2 nos. Okay, let's move on to Gideon Lodge. This was one of the most interesting discussions I've had on this topic, and it goes back quite a number of years. It seems that what's now the daycare center was originally the gym for the old seminary building across the street, and there's a path on one side of that that went down to the water. There's also the Gideon Lodge, and they, I believe, own some land in the back, but the town wanted access to the pond, Greenwood Pond in the back, and by town action, they were offered a tax deferment so that we could get an easement to go down to the water. I spoke to Richard Johnson, who was master of the lodge at the time, to Peter Broderick, who was a select board member at the time, and I spoke to someone else, but it was not Mark Heitz, who was also on the board at the time. The property itself has been a dilemma for many years because of who owned what when. There was land that when the daycare center became a daycare center as opposed to a gym, there was an agreement with the Sanborn School District also to transfer that easement on the one side to the daycare center. That was between that and the Carriagetown property, and then you have the one that we have going down. Because it was a town action, I don't see us rescinding that deferment. However, my personal opinion would be, how long do we pay for an easement down to don't we own the easement by now? And that would take action by a town meeting to say, okay, you don't have a tax deferment anymore. But you might want to have stipulations with they sold the building, if it changed out of the Kingston Masonic Temple versus another town. Those things need to be discussed. So, in my opinion, again, that's just how I feel about it. I do recognize that any changes that have to be through town warrant. There's no question about that in my mind. Comments from my colleagues?
So I understand everything you said. I agree with what you said. A lot of the discussion about, easements and so forth, if any of that needs to change, obviously it's a town vote. So
right.
I think what is in front of us for decision is the status of the payment in lieu of taxes and the amount of that, given that the original amount was set in 1992, and the fact that we have a number of years where that pilot was not paid.
Correct.
And with regard to that, my personal opinion is that to try to seek back taxes at this point or back payments at this point is really useless, because to be honest, there's probably enough blame to go around. I mean, the town probably didn't do its due diligence in making sure to try to collect that.
Right.
The lodge, on the other hand, should have been forwarding it per the 1992 warrant agreement voted by the town, and they didn't. And whether or not there was any non-public session by select board to change any of that is really moot, because the select board cannot change a town vote.
Correct.
So that isn't even an issue. I mean, that's just smoke in this whole thing.
Right.
So I have thought about it. I put together a motion. I wrote it down just so that I'd get everything into it. I'm happy to share it with all of you, and I'm happy to read it into the record, and we can, if there's a second to it, then we can discuss it, and if we need to tweak it, we can.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
So if you're ready for it, I'll
do your thing.
I'll pass it out to you, and there's one for each of you, including Susan. And once you've all got it, I'll go ahead and make the motion. Okay, so I move to forgive any unpaid payment in lieu of taxes, otherwise known as pilot, between 1992 and present day by Gideon Lodge number 84 for its property on Church Street in Kingston, New Hampshire. Further, pursuant to inflation adjustment authorized by Article 14 on the 1992 town warrant, I move that the pilot due from Gideon Lodge number 84 for 2024 is $2,236, representing the current day value of the original $1,000 pilot. Going forward, the amount of the pilot will be reviewed by the town assessor at each 5-year revaluation cycle, with recommendation made to the select board for appropriate increase based on inflation during the preceding 5 years.
I'll second that motion. And I thank you for updating the cost of the pilot.
Yes, and I did that using, I mean, there are a number of website tools that you can go to get present value for. This one happened to be smartasset.com is what I used. And you plug in the dollar value and the year, and it tells you what the value is in the 2024 or any other year that you wish. And I printed out the page that provided me with that $2,236 value.
Okay, what do we do going forward about looking at, again, the current value of the easement? Is it a forever thing? Can we get together to talk about having a date it stops? I mean, is this a forever thing for the pilot? That's my concern.
Well, the pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes, and I almost think that you can deal with the whole easement thing as a separate thing. If you try to mix it with this, it becomes,
okay,
I think it becomes very confusing.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So this payment in lieu of taxes, does that mean that we accept them as a nonprofit? Is this the same as?
The town vote in 1992 acknowledged the fact that they were not a nonprofit, did not qualify for nonprofit status, but that due to some concessions that they were making to the town and some of the things they did for the town, the voters approved a payment in lieu of normal property taxes.
So, okay, but he's saying that went away at some point in time, that $1,000 amount.
Yes, and that went away because Sumner Kalman, who was town attorney at the time, said to them in front of the other selectmen, or certainly in front of Rich Johnson and Peter Broderick, that either you're tax exempt or you're not, you shouldn't be paying us anything. But he was wrong. It's not in a tax exemption. We're deferring, it's pilot. We're deferring taxes in order for us to have the easement. So it's a different thing. The town attorney should not have done that, but that was done back then. It was done, but that doesn't keep us from doing this now.
So that went away, that amount of them paying that?
No.
Well, yes.
That obligation did not go away.
The obligation didn't, but an agreement was made.
Right.
Which they didn't have the authority to.
That's correct.
Because it can only be happened by town warrant, which didn't, it was just.
Town warrant included it.
Yes, exactly. So to change it, it has to go back to town warrant, not a discussion amongst the select board.
That's correct.
Or whomever. So that's really
I'm just trying to figure what the pushback's gonna be.
Exactly. So.
The 2,200 is not an unreasonable, because that was part of the original deal.
No, I don't.
For inflation.
Well, and
knowing they have no money, there's gonna be a pushback, so.
Right.
Well, keep in mind that the recommendation for the increased value of the pilot of a little over $1,000 was authorized in that warrant article
yes.
in 1992, because it says, and I can read it just for the record. It's Article 14 in 1992. Gideon Lodge further agrees to pay $1,000 annually, said amount to be increased at intervals for inflation as agreed to by the Kingston Selectmen and Gideon Lodge. The town of Kingston will accept the above lease and said dollars of payment in lieu of taxes. So in the article, it authorized an escalation of the amount based on inflation, and that's all we're doing here.
So your motion is saying at every 5-year revaluation cycle, the amount will be set, and that's what they'll pay for that 5-year period.
Going forward.
Going forward.
For that 5 years.
So if we agree on that amount for 2236, that's what they're going to pay for the next 4 years until the new cycle.
Correct.
Correct.
That's my proposal, yes. And I tried to pick I mean, we could choose to do it annually, but since the town does a revaluation on a 5-year cycle, it just seemed that it was logical to do it that way.
I agree with that.
I think, I mean, I don't disagree with this. The only thing I disagree with is it's a 2236 right out of the chute. Maybe we institute that next year, or we...
No, they've already paid the taxes for this year. They paid what we had assessed them for this year already, so
They did?
Yes, they did, so we can refund the difference. I'm not in
I didn't
favor of
realize
giving them
that.
any
So
money
they
back.
paid-
I didn't know that either.
I'm 90% sure that they have already paid.
I didn't know that.
Ken Weiler, I believe, stepped to the plate.
Okay.
He told us that. He told us that when he was
Well,
here.
if that's the case, then I would expect that if we were to authorize this, that we would do a refund of the difference.
Of the difference, that's
If we
correct.
paid 5,000 in taxes, we give them.
Right. Oh, I didn't...
I think it was
I
7,000.
was not under the impression that they paid anything.
Unless I misheard Mr. Weiler, he said he came forward
Yeah.
to pay the taxes. I don't think I misheard him.
Right.
Well, we can certainly check on
Yeah,
that.
we
That's
can-
right. But either way, it needs to be verified and,
Pete's gonna check.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Any other comments on this article before
You
us?
haven't talked with Ken about this, Glenn?
I have not.
No.
On the side type of.
Oh, no, absolutely not. No, in fact, I
just
was,
didn't know if you'd had the conversation.
I'm surprised he's not.
no, I was expecting he would be here, and I was hoping that he would be so
Yeah.
that he'd hear the explanation.
Yeah.
But no,
It's all right.
no, I have not. He did reach out to me prior to our last meeting where he came in, wanted to understand some things, and I tried to give him information, but it was nothing to do with this.
I won't be surprised if we have a couple of people show up tonight thinking that
Oh.
both ducks in the pond and the Pearsons would normally be here, right?
I was surprised they weren't here either.
Yeah, we told them it was a morning meeting, so.
Well,
Yeah, it was,
It's been posted.
it has.
so.
And they were told when they were here last time in the meeting.
I think we need to move forward.
Must have a job.
So Glenn, thank you. This is a very well thought out motion. I
No,
appreciate the time
I
that
think
you
it's,
put that
it
into that.
was very well done.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
If it wasn't a second on it, that's.
yeah.
Actually, there was, Ellie seconded it.
Ellie seconded our, yeah.
Okay, all those in favor, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and that goes forward. Excellent. Good job done.
Good job done.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Glenn.
Yes, everyone helped make this
I have a
happen.
feeling this is not gonna be the last that we hear
Well,
about
it's
this.
not.
Well, that's all right. We, you know,
We've
to
done
be
our-
continued.
We've done our due diligence. to take
Exactly.
care of it.
I don't
Well,
think,
And it's reasonable.
I
It's still
think-
less than what, if we
I-
just said no, and they're gonna pay whatever their taxes are.
I think it's a far cry from what it could have been had we imposed back taxes to 1990, whenever.
and I didn't even want to do that, to be honest.
Well, no.
Because we own part of it. We own that.
Well, which is why I didn't go there, because, I
exactly.
mean, even if it might be the right thing to do in many respects, the fact that we, the town, were not pursuing it all along,
Yeah.
we have as much blame here as anybody, so.
Okay, anything else on the old business? Oh, yes, sir, thank you, yep.
So those agreements went out
Yeah.
to the new system residents that are gonna get a new system, and WaterTex has already started setting up their appointments for their initial visit. The only fly in that ointment is we had a couple of questions about the language in the agreement, which we have sent back to council just to see, you know, if there's anything really radical that needs to be changed. I didn't expect so, since it came from the attorney in the first place, but we did send it back to make sure that it's kosher, and once we hear from her, we may be making some tweaks to that.
So the residents haven't signed anything then yet?
Some have.
Several of
Some
them
have.
Some have.
Got
And
it,
a couple
okay.
people were holding off because they had some questions.
Got it,
So that's
okay.
what we're clarifying.
And what we're saying is that when people ask, is that the WaterTex, the company that we've contracted with, can do the initial evaluations of the site, but that before any work starts, the agreement has to be signed in
Right.
in our
That's
our
correct.
possession, because it lays out all the responsibilities.
Right. And those that do not sign do not get a system. Or bottled water. Either one, neither. Okay.
I'm still trying to get back the one for the existing systems, because it's gonna be a lot less wording to that, because there's nothing about installing or removing, or, well, might be, that part would still be in, but that's with the attorney and Verdantis also.
Okay. Any other question on that update? We have a couple of things for new business. One is the tax bill insert on volunteers, but
So I brought this up at the last meeting, and Tammy, the town clerk, sent us kind of the RSA about it.
Yeah.
And it talked about information directly related to municipal business. Well, considering our boards and our committees are all staffed by volunteers, that's how we run business. I think it's very applicable to just talk about and send out to the town a call for involvement, and that's what this is, right? And so I was trying to think of a best way to present the data without just regurgitating what's on the website. So I came up with two examples of if I want to volunteer, we kind of separated it by your skills or interests. So if you're interested in child and adult activities, the board or committee for you would be the rec committee, right? If you like land use, it could be planning board, zoning board, conservation commission. This is just a very rough draft, by the way. But if you're interested more in how much time that you can give, we also did a table of time commitment. And again, this is a very rough draft, but I just wanted to give an illustration of how I thought best to plug for more community engagement to make sure that all of our boards and committees are well-staffed so we can continue to run the business of the town.
comments?
I mean, the issue of it, you know, what's the term? The insert needs to be per RSA municipal activity. I mean, I think you said it, Lori. I mean, the fact that the town runs on its volunteers, I mean, I'm not sure how much, you know, how you could consider that not a municipal function in the sense that it's not a town department per se, but
I don't think the state's going to worry about one of these in an envelope from the town of Kingston.
I just wanted to make sure, because I brought it up and Tammy wanted to send out that information, and I just, right, just kind of give that back information.
The only thing I see with it, the interest and skills.
Yeah.
I mean, we for the most part want anyone within reason to volunteer.
Right.
And we've got general computer skills, graphic skills, photographic skills, writing skills. You know, if somebody doesn't have writing skills, like myself, you know, we don't want to deter them not to volunteer.
Sure.
So I interpreted that as having half all those skills or one or two of those skills to serve on a particular committee.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm afraid that my thing is it might scare them away.
Right.
Versus the other, you know, recycling would obviously make sense with that. You're telling that person, that committee, but.
Yes.
Or child and adult with.
Yes.
That part of it looks pretty good. That's that first.
Well, we basically, it says welcome everywhere, so if you have those skills, that's great, but it's not saying you have to.
Yeah, it says interest.
Yeah, interest or skills. No, Chuck, we can absolutely accommodate for just a general interest is really what you're saying. Sure. And and I would like to send this out clearly to the chairpersons and the presidents of the boards and committees to make sure we're capturing what they really need, because this was just my swag at it. And then to get a real gauge for time commitment, because some people, they're just gonna, I only have 4 hours a month, and so they're gonna pick something. But I just really, I feel like this is just one way, you know, how you present data is important, and we can then direct them back to the website for a full-blown description with points of contact if they have more questions.
I like the fact that, especially on some of the more formal, like the land use boards and so forth, the fact that you've put the time commitment, because when volunteers are approached, I mean, one of their first questions is, well, how much time is committed here?
So again, this is just an example, and we have a couple months, so I can make sure all the data is accurate. The other question is, we have to pay for this. So I don't know where that would come from.
Well, the postage is paid for because it's
The
covered by
postage
the
is paid
tax
for.
bill mailing.
And
So it's the printing on the paper.
it's the printing on the paper, and I know the other side is already counted for by,
Oh, I was gonna ask.
it's MS4 stormwater, and then probably some recycling stuff on the other side. So the cost of the piece of paper would be split with Public Works and stormwater management. It would just be and knowing what we did last time, I think it's like $350. The other half.
Contingency fund, just to answer the question.
Okay.
Point to put it on too.
Okay.
Okay, I don't mean to be a wet blanket, but I think the timing at Christmas time or December for this is not good. I would rather see the spring.
Why?
Because people are hibernating in the winter months.
But that gives them something that they can.
I may be
Right.
the only one that feels that way.
Yep.
I'd rather have
Okay.
the more events on what's going on with recycling. Stormwater is one thing, but I don't know. I'd rather I'd rather be promoting the collection center than volunteerism, because statistically, people join organizations and volunteer because they're asked to, and they also leave because they weren't asked to stay, believe it or not. That's
Understood.
Right.
But the
So-
recycling is also gonna we just approved a mailer, a
Yeah, I know,
separate
but
mailer.
that mailer is not gonna be enough. They're gonna need at least quarterly mailers, if nothing else.
I'm wondering if we do it for the little money that it is, and be interesting to see what the feedback is. If we don't get much feedback, then there's no sense in doing it again. If we get
Right, and
feedback,
I
it's
think-
something I might do it another one in the
Right.
spring.
We just need to start getting people to step up.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll make one more suggestion. You need a graphic artist
Mm-hmm.
to give this some pizzazz. 'Cause
Again, this is just an
you'll
example.
put me
but
to
yep.
sleep. I wouldn't.
Okay.
That's not hard to do, that's not hard to do.
I
by
can
the
sleep
way.
anywhere, anytime. It's not, you're right, it's not hard to do, but just a suggestion.
No, I think that's a good suggestion. I do think, though, that the this year's final tax bill is probably not a bad time to do it. Because in springtime, I mean, people are really busy. I mean, they're not thinking about this. They're thinking about vacations. They're thinking about getting out and taking care of the
Which
property.
is one of the reasons we have trouble with volunteers, because they're always thinking about
Well,
something else.
also, I mean, our town election is March, and some of these are elected positions, so it's actually a good time for people to think, oh, so that's something, Susan was very helpful with this, so I think we can somehow annotate on here too, Susan, if it's an elected or appointed position, so that way it's a push to put their name on a ballot. So,
Okay. Is there a motion to do so, or?
Well, she's gonna redo it, right?
Okay,
That
yeah.
We're not gonna, do we want to accept this one, or are you doing? it?
I don't want to put up forth a whole lot of, well, it's not going to be final until a couple months from now, because I need a lot of data.
We don't need a
Read it.
motion, obviously, yeah, we're gonna do it.
All right, okay, great, thank you.
We have two applications for facilities use. One is the Patriots NFL Flag Network wants to have flag football at the fairgrounds by the Stepping Stones Playground from September 10th through November 7th. Chief of Police has no issues, the fire chief, road agent hasn't weighed in. Do you have any objections to the?
Can you read again what it is for?
It is for flag football practice for 10-year-olds and under.
For a period of time.
For September 10th through November 7th, and it's mostly Kingston kids.
Does it say how frequently?
It says on the back, my name is Sean Murray. I am a Kingston resident and coach my son along with other kids in the community. My phone number is, I would very much appreciate the use of the field for our team. 10 kids is usually the most per team. We would have their only our team, although there's room for others if other teams wish to also practice at the same time. We are asking for use of the field on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4:30 to 6 this fall. The league has a certificate of liability insurance, and I can provide this to whoever needs it. Thank you, John Murray.
And that's for the fairgrounds and not Como Field.
That's correct. Phil?
No, it's gotta be Como Field.
Gotta be Como
It says
Field.
Fairgrounds by Stepping Stones Playgrounds.
Yeah, that's Como.
That's Como Field.
That is Como Field?
Yeah.
He didn't know.
So we typically pull the porta potties from there on Columbus Day.
You pull the porta potties from Columbus Day.
So that would be an added expense to have those there for that event for another month or two, if they're going
Yeah, that's
mid-November.
October, yeah, there'd be another month, another 5 weeks.
So,
Nothing but nothing, we could pass that cost on to the applicant. I mean, that is generally like $100 a month.
Or ask them to get one.
Well, pass it on to the applicant. So, you
Tell them it
know,
won't be there.
well, I think we have that many people, then you're gonna have the complaints about the kids and people down there, then people going in the woods, and I think that should be a requirement. If you're gonna have 20+ people down there playing football, they should have a facility down there.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And I don't think that's too much to ask.
And the only other thing that they gave the hours of whatever it was till 6, and it should not go any further than 6. Because of the West
Well, it's
Nile
gonna
and
be
all that
dark.
issue. Well, at that point, but I remember going down when the Pop Warner football was there, and they got their little portable lights, and they were out there till 8 or 9 o'clock, and we had to throw them off because they had the big West Nile scare back
Oh,
then,
right.
so.
Well, we got it now,
but-
too.
Well,
Yeah,
I
we
was,
do.
I was gonna ask, we've got Triple E and West Nile
Yeah, so
around.
6 o'clock is good, but if they wanted to go to 7 or 8, even if they got their own lights, that wouldn't be good.
So we make it contingent on them providing a porta potty for another month? Because we're gonna pay for October, I would assume, yes, no, or 2 months. You tell me.
I am almost positive it's Columbus Day is when we pull the ones from Stepping Stones and the boat launch, but let me just verify that.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the facility use?
So moved.
So you have, well,
Contingent on a porta potty being provided
Yes.
at the applicant's expense.
at the applicant's expense.
And you haven't signed off on this yet, Phil, so it would also need to be contingent on you being okay with this.
Yep.
That was my only concern.
Okay. And I assume there's a fee that goes along with this? We charge for this?
I don't see any fee on here.
Yeah, I don't know what the fee is for Como. We charge.
I know the Hurricanes, the Lady Hurricanes are paying $600.
That's for Magnuson, right?
No, that's
Como. Oh. And this
What
is
is
not
We
for
don't have
games,
a
this is
fee
just
on
for
here.
practice.
We have a fee schedule for town, like, I mean,
I think
it's
it's
a fee to use this
$600.
hall, and
Oh, they're not gonna pay $600, are they?
How long is that for? A year?
For their season.
I was curious how long that's for. $600.
For the use of the field for this.
And that's that's a league, right? Is that-
Yes.
So, and this is just.
This is
uh,
one
kids.
team.
It's one team of kids, so I don't,
I think if they provide the porta potty, we can waive any other fees. Is that a reasonable thing to do? I mean, if there's 10 kids playing there for 2 hours a week or 3 hours a week. Where's it from?
I think it's an application by a Kingston resident, so I think we should,
Yeah,
the only thing we ask for is you have bathrooms down there. That's non-negotiable.
Right.
And then waive your fees.
for one team. If
Trying
they
to trying to get those kids to do something is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's a great thing, to be honest with you. Get them out and get them doing something.
okay.
So,
and just a comment, like when we rent this hall, if a Kingston resident rents it, they still pay. They pay a different rate, but they still pay. So, just saying.
Okay. Do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
I thought you had made the motion.
he did.
Trying to move it along.
I'll second it then.
All right. So it's contingent on a porta potty?
Being supplied at their expense after
least-
Columbus Day or whenever Phil's tells me it is, so,
Right, for probably October and November. Provide porta potty.
okay.
And and one team only, and that they're done by 6 o'clock, or 6-ish,
And you're waiving the fee.
and waiving the fee. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
So I have a question, so, well, I mean, Glenn raises a good point. So if we're gonna waive the fee, are we gonna reimburse for other facilities use applications currently in play? If for a Kingston resident? Okay.
The board has the authority to.
It's 10 kids. I guess that's why, it's just such a small group, it's a Kingston Red, it's 10 kids.
Inside the building, we have cost. Lights, electricity,
Janitor.
the janitor, the plumbing, the septic system, we have cost here. We don't have a cost down there.
Right.
It's outside, the kids are playing around. That's
Only
just
one
my
is a
thought.
porta potty.
Do we have costs?
Would you like to weigh in on costs, Mr. Combs? I'm assuming there are some, but you could probably tell us if there are.
If they clean up after themselves, the costs are minimal. If they're expecting like a, Division I collegiate experience on the field, like the people who paid the $600 did, we mow. We're not gonna groom the field every day in anticipation of their practice, or, it's, the expectation is kind of what gets them.
I think we should add that to the motion about make sure they clean the trash up.
Okay.
Yep, that's what I would say.
Susan, please add that on there. Fair enough.
And the bottom line is, Phil, too, is if you go down there, and one of the guys is down there, and there's, stuff all over the place, then we can take it away as well as we gave it out.
Exactly.
If you get down there, trash can full of crap on the field or on the ground.
Yep.
Yep.
But it was Como Field, we pulled them in Columbus Day last year, because there were no applications submitted, and so that's what we budgeted for this year for porta potty. So yeah, if they could cover that at least for the extra month or whatever the excess is, that would be great.
Okay, all those in favor, we'll take the vote again just to be on the safe side. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Say no.
No.
One objection. Great. And the other one,
Need Phil for that as well.
yeah, is the, what the hell?
Swing dance.
A Halloween dance? Yeah, thank you.
They've been here before. This is a little different. And
The only one that's signed is the chief of police, and he says a detail officer is required. It's North Shore Square Dance. Use of the town hall on October 12th, 5 to 11. Set up in the afternoon from 3 to 5. It's their Halloween masquerade ball, 80 estimated people, and food will be provided.
What do we do for a situation like that now that we have?
And they want alcohol.
And that is my issue, because right in that paperwork, it says they need to have a licensed provider, and he signed it. He says, I'm gonna do it myself this time. I said, well, you really can't. You're gonna have to sign somebody else up. And he hasn't gotten back to me, so I don't think you can approve that now either way.
Okay.
We need more information.
Should we, an event like that, that's gonna go during the day and into the night, shouldn't we have somebody, not only law enforcement, but
He
maybe?
says, Joel's the only one that's been on it, and it says detail officer required.
Okay, but I'm saying not only that,
Somebody from the town.
somebody from the town pay a fee to have somebody from the public works or whatever, God forbid you had a plumbing issue, you got the buildings downstairs, they're walking through the hallways, that's the only way to get in here now, you can't use the front door. So I think there should be somebody on staff here that available to come in and obviously be compensated for their time during that event, not just law enforcement.
Okay.
We need somebody from buildings to
call.
be here. Yeah, somebody, that's my thought.
When they were here previously, we had a custodian the whole time present.
That should suffice. Yep, that was my point.
And the fee schedule accounts for custodial fees, custodial time, if I recall correctly.
I think, is that the extra $40?
Yeah.
Bring that.
That's the
On
extra.
top of the other fee, it's $40 for.
Okay.
So like the police detail is charged above and beyond the hall rental fee, and then the custodial fee is additional to that as well.
So I marked on the front of their application, liquor license needed, custodian needed, police detail needed, pending information needed. Okay, that should cover that. Okay, and here we also have automobile recycling yard, motor vehicle junkyard license for Whitney's Garage.
I assume that's a renewal.
It's a renewal.
And it was approved pending Pedro taking a look a long time ago. And I just realized, because he came in, that we hadn't heard back from Pedro. So I asked Pedro, he said it's fine. So now it can be signed and
So
sent out to
Pedro
them.
has looked at it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and so this is a permanent application for property tax exemption for,
I need to jump back there, Ellie. But,
yeah.
Did we talk about the state shed land lease update with Phil?
Yes.
We did
he's
talk
gonna
about that?
check. Yeah, we did, and he's gonna poke them again because
Oh, okay, I'm
we haven't
sorry.
heard back,
I-
yes. When he gave his report, I asked about
I
that.
must have been asleep with my eyes open, sorry.
That's okay. So that was 2 exemptions here, tax exemptions for veterans, I believe. And let me get this one, and I'll give you a couple. All right. Jesus, I don't know. Here we go, these 2. This one here is another tax exemption.
There's an elderly.
Yes, that's what this one is. Thank you. Okay, then we have a couple of deeds here.
Cemetery
deeds, 1, 2, 3, and the capital improvement plan that was, for the Flynn's, yeah.
While I was signing that, you guys have all gone down and checked off the, I haven't looked lately, the minutes, past minutes for the executive meeting, minutes?
We haven't voted on that yet.
No, we haven't. You gotta go down and check them off. I'm just following up on them.
Oh, downstairs,
The old
oh, you were
minutes.
right.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay, thank you for
We haven't
reminding.
been there yet, Susan.
No, have not. That's okay.
Did you give it to Peter?
Yes.
Okay.
I have one more thing. It was just some old business.
Okay.
You wanted to follow up on the website. I actually
Yep.
got an email, Caitlin and I did. It's ready for our review. They just have to get us the access to it, which should be happening this week. Yeah, so.
Excellent. And speaking of websites, I was thinking of audio. We need to certainly follow up. We need some help for Adam as he goes on his journey to fame and fortune as an educator in the school system. So we need to start looking for someone that he can train, that could be backup, that could attend the morning meetings that he's not able to attend.
Right. I sent the information to the school, but Adam pointed out to me that doesn't help on Monday mornings. So we should be putting it on our website and Facebook, I guess.
Did you call the school at all?
I did. I
Okay,
talked
okay.
to Phyllis and she sent it along to
Okay, good.
be posted.
Get some purchase orders here, folks, so. Okay, let me sign this one.
Thank you,
here.
young lady.
Okay, those are the public comment. All right, purchase orders. You creating problems again, Mr. Coombs? What's that? We got purchase orders from you all over the place, right? Markings, Inc. Okay, these haven't been approved by finance, but. You have comments on you need to help us out with these purchase orders? You tell me, pick one.
Okay, so the striping, which would be the marking zinc one you just had.
Yep.
We've been using the same contractor for a number of years. I am extremely unhappy with their performance and as such have moved to make them an unqualified bidder for the town of Kingston. They had promised to fix some issues last year, which is why we retained them and did not go out to bid, because they said they were going to fix basically a workmanship issue that they had done on Hunt Road where they didn't mark the lines properly. They were going to come back and fix it. They didn't, so they are no longer a qualified bidder. I went out, talked to, I want to say 8 different towns about who they used for line striping, because if you went to Google right now and looked up line striping, it would include every idiot with a paint can doing parking lots and everything in between, and obviously doing over 400,000 lineal feet of line striping for our town. We need qualified people. So I got recommendations for 3 different companies. You have quotes from all of them there, and Markings Inc. was the lowest one. With regards to this, there is a provision in the purchasing policy for major construction impacts being able to select the 3 bidders based on qualifications. This is a one-time shot, especially like, you know, we just did Ball and Rock Rimmon Road. When they do this, it has to be done right, because we're stuck with it until the next time we pave. They're just going to be painting over the old lines, or you're going to get 2 sets of lines on the road, and that's why the other contractor is no longer being utilized. So that's why it did not go out to bid, or a sealed bid. The other thing is the previous contractor was a lot cheaper, so that's why he was being utilized, but the workmanship just is not there on something like that. So those bids came in under $25,000, whereas these are substantially more. We have the money in the budget to cover it, but I don't know. I'll stop talking in case there are more questions.
Okay, well, Allstate, for example, that's a rubber surface treatment.
Yeah, that's the chip sealing, that's not the line striping.
I mean, so that's a different PO.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Oh, okay.
I have 2 different POs, neither of which have Paula's signature on it. It's, you know, we're gonna, I don't know. I'm gathering that Markings is not the one that's gonna get, even though we've got them as their name over here. Is that correct? This PO has Markings as the vendor.
Yes. Markings Inc. is the company that had the lowest bid of the 3 that we got bids from.
Oh, but that's not the one you want to throw out the.
No, they were not invited to bid. They are no longer a qualified bidder for the town.
So they shouldn't even be on here.
Who's not a qualified bidder?
Industrial traffic lines is the one.
Oh, I
who's
thought
no
you said
longer-
Markings. Geez, I'm sorry.
That's the one that's getting the bid. It's late.
It's been a long morning already. So who's getting it instead?
Markings Inc. was the low bidder.
The low bidder.
And they did come, all of the people we solicited bid from came recommended. I contacted, like I said, numerous other towns to find out who they used so that we would at least get qualified bidders.
Okay. And
So
all
the
states.
issue on that is that PO is $100 under what the estimate was, or the quote was from them. The reason for that is, I can show you the data from the last 3 years. The number's never the same, because it's just a little wheel that goes along and a road might get forgotten, or if we're paving a road the following year, we do not stripe that road, because it affects the adherence of the asphalt or whatever treatment we're doing on the road.
Okay.
So we just have the lineal footage for the whole town, but we don't do the whole town every year. We leave off any roads that we're doing for the following year. So it will be lower than that. So I put the PO amount under the estimate for that reason. Also because that maxed out the 2 lines that are being utilized for this, and it came out $100 less.
Ellie, if it helps, I have the email that Paula typed up about all of this, right?
Yeah.
Because that's why she has questions. That's why she didn't sign this one. Anything over 25,000 needs a RFP and sealed bids. He didn't do sealed bids. He did the 3 RFPs. And the one that he went to is, as he just explained, is that $100 difference, right? So he would be over $100. So she's saying it's this one, the board will also have to decide how we want to proceed. That's why she didn't sign it, because she had a couple of questions on this one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess Phil and I met on Friday just to go over this, because I needed to be clear on this. So we didn't do a sealed bid, but we did RFPs. And then it was that $100.
Yeah, but are we
difference.
supposed to be doing sealed bids? I mean, really?
There's, in
I
my
understand-
interpretation of the purchasing policy, there is a exemption for major construction projects where qualified bidders, the importance of qualified bidders being recognized.
Correct. That I remember. That.
And I guess what the question coming out of it is, I took that as you could go directly to them, get 3 bids, and call it good. Does that still need to go through the sealed bid process?
That's a
If
good
we're
question.
selecting them out? It's not 1986 where there's a line of qualified contractors waiting in the wings. And this is going to be the recurring problem for me, because no other departments have to go out for these high dollar bids all the time. I mean, those guys might buy a fire truck that is over $25,000, but there's not really many other things. So
Okay, but
I need clarification on that, but
I think we need to talk about that at another meeting, because quite honestly, if we're going to have a reputation of not bidding, then not going out for quotes, for sealed bids, then that may impact the types of bids we get in. I don't know that, but I think we need a discussion on it. And I think it's only fair that we do that so that the public doesn't get crazy with us that we're not going out to sealed bids. And I don't want to see the town get sued by another vendor who might have put in a sealed bid but didn't want to do a quote. I don't know that they would, but I'm just saying. I just want to cover our butts on that, on 6 Ways to Sunday.
right.
That's all.
And when Lori and I spoke on Friday, I definitely see that it probably should have gone out for sealed bid, but I think the way the policy's written, the way I saw it, isn't wrong either.
So maybe you might want to set your calendar so that some items, especially the bigger dollars, I mean, you do handle some big volumes of dollars out of the highway department, and understandably so. So it makes sense that maybe if you backed up your calendar a little bit more, that you could be a little more cautious in that. But we should talk about it as a board and look at the policy and decide as a group what we want to do going forward.
And,
I don't want to handcuff you, that's not my intent at all. But if we're going to make my colleague over here write policies, we want to live by them.
Well, absolutely. And, and that's the thing, right, where we have to make sure that the policy reflects how we do business, not the other way around.
That's correct.
Right?
And it's got to have some flexibility to accommodate for the exceptions to the rule.
And we can account for that, for sure. So yes, it'll be a good conversation.
If we have enough time ahead of time to go out to do the bids, but if not, because the other contractor wasn't getting it, he did get the 3 bids. We do have the 3 bids. We are taking the one, so technically he's got the 3 bids. It didn't quite go by the policy.
Yes.
But I think,
But as
like
long
every
as-
policy, there's an exception to the rule.
Right, but you need transparency. Look at Irving. We haven't gone out to oil bid in a while, not since I've been on the board. The first year I was on, we did, that was 4 years ago. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, it was the school helped connect us with theirs, and then it kind of, we piggybacked on them for a while, a year or 2. Is that correct in that?
Well, we did solicit bids from other vendors previously, but they
Right,
haven't
we
even
used-
been remotely close to what we get with Irving.
Yeah, and that alone is worth not going out to bid, but there's got to be a way to have that exemption written into it. It's got to be some way to ensure, because again, for transparency to the public, so that when they question what we're doing and why, we can easily explain it, so. Okay, the only other thing I have is approval of minutes, unless you all have something else that I didn't have on the agenda or missed.
I just was gonna ask, backing up.
Yeah.
Backing up to the Unitil scenario, can we find out, or can Susan make a call about the impact fees? Now, they're saying that they've never paid impact fees, it's not relevant to their particular business, and I don't care one way or the other, but can we get, without We don't want to wait 2 weeks to get the answer. If, you know.
No.
If utilities are eligible, are eligible to pay impact fees, then we have the information. Doesn't mean we're going to do it. But if they're right, and the fact is, in general, the utilities and the solar people don't pay the impact fees because of what it is, then we know that also. So I don't know, Susan, if you can call.
I can look into it, because the other question was also if it didn't involve a building. I heard him say that. So.
My biggest with the project, right, I looked at the solar panel for my house. If they're on the house, there's not a tax because it's part of your structure. If you build them as a standing thing. But every time I see a standing solar farm built, and there's a lot of them, you see a cement base.
Right.
And it's a permanent structure. This application, they're actually screwing in hangers or anchors. It's a big screw that goes into the ground so these things don't blow away. I still think we're really bouncing on this building. They have a fee. There is a fee. They've agreed to put it in escrow to cover all our costs. We're going to bill for electrical permitting. We're going to bill for all that stuff. I don't think permitting in the town of Kingston was designed to make money on. It covers our cost. It really does. I mean, we're going to, after the construction's done, they're looking at $300,000 to $350,000 a year to pay us in taxes, right? And how many times are we going down there? Exactly. And I understand the whole thing about they had to go and make out their application and stuff. And I was on the planning board when they came before us, and I honestly don't remember any conversation about impact fees. That's why I'm kind of baffled by it myself, because now Pedro he's trying to do the right thing, but we have no guidelines in solar fields. And that's why I told him to reach out to Molten Borough to talk to see what they did up there as far as their fees and what costs they may have with this.
So what they had said during it, though, that they're exempt from that if utility is owned and built, well, this is for the substations, right? So if it's utility owned and built, then they're exempt. I mean, they used subcontractors to build some stuff because they're not a construction company.
And they're saying they're doing the exact same thing.
The exact revision is the subcontractor, and I think that's Pedro's thing, is where it's revisions doing the work, but you subcontract out a lot of stuff because your company doesn't do soup to nuts.
Fulfill every job description.
Right, and I agree with the building thing. There's no building up in the solar farm, right? Like a substation, you have a small building, but at the solar field, there's not gonna be a building. So, right, what is that? What's the building fee in the inspections for? So there's a lot of questions here, but it really is, what's the precedent?
Well, and not only that, like Graham, we had a meeting with Graham the other day, basically on this whole impact for the fire department. And what he actually says, it's our decision. But he says he does like the relationship that he can call and say, hey, listen, we need power down on Main Street, we need power on Paul Road, something.
All-American.
All-American, and they jump. And we've had a great working relationship with them. And it's just, they've come and done things for the town or helped us out or whatever.
Right.
But you look at that, I mean, I think it was I hate to say it was a fail from the beginning, because this should have been brought up a long time ago, and now here they are going into this, and like they said, that could have caused a change of plans. We might not have had that location down there, and they did do the road as requested. How'd that come up, by the way? Looks good. I don't know if you nice. So, I mean, they did do that. I mean, right out of the gate, no questions asked, because we gave them a list of things they had to do. Now, that wasn't on the list. So that's...
Well, I kind of am agreeing with you. I don't think the impact fees really are going to pertain, because even Graham said, if there's something with the substation, they don't touch it at all anyways. Unitil is the one that comes down and handles anything that goes on. And I got to assume the same thing's going to happen on Toll Road. So I don't want an agreement in lieu of taxes. I'd rather have the taxes and waive any potential impact fee on the building. The permitting fees, the same thing. As long as they're paying our expenses, they put money in escrow, we draw against it, and go from there. Did you want to weigh in, Phil, or?
Not on the impact fees per se, but just, I'm curious what level Sans Souci's involved in the tax assessment? Because this would be, since it's a brand-new type of power generation and there isn't like a pre-established tax rate for it, and I'm just asking out of curiosity what because this would be where they would be very valuable.
I've sent it to them, but I didn't have the full plan until, just sent it to them recently, so.
So you sent it last week sometime?
Yeah, Friday I sent some, and then I had the plans today and sent out that this
Oh, I
morning.
see,
Because Pedro was
I
asking
see.
me about the taxes, and I said, I don't think they can give you a ballpark on something like that, but I'll make sure they have everything.
Well, do you want to wait till we hear what the tax revenue potential is before we make a final decision? Or what?
I don't think it's gonna be, I mean, they said what, 3 to 3?
They already have a pretty good idea of what
Yeah,
they're gonna pay.
that's
It
true.
might be 340 or it might be 375, but it's.
Right.
It's gonna be
300 or more.
substantial.
Over $300,000.
I don't think we need to have that as an answer, and with regard to the impact fee, if we haven't already checked with our town planner, who has experience with impact fees in towns and that sort of thing, I mean, it might be worth just asking him what his opinion is.
But they did, and he didn't blink. Yeah, but, okay, a second question.
Unitil already pays
In their meetings
$425,000 a
with
year.
him, they
That's all right,
said,
they can afford to pay more.
in their meetings with him, I got the impression that he did not bring that up. I don't think he was asked specific, I mean, we all miss things
Oh, we
somewhere
do.
along the line.
We own some of this, I mean, there's no, this is a
Finding
two-way
out we're
street.
missing more things than.
Well, we're also learning too, I mean, that's the other piece of this.
I
It's a new
think it's worth
experience.
asking the question,
Yeah.
just
Well, that's what I had said, if some, if the lawyer looked at, impact fees relevant to utilities and this kind of a thing, or Glenn may very well say, yeah, they've done it in 5 towns and nobody's charging it, or they are, or whatever.
Right, and we can still make a different decision.
That's right.
That's correct.
Right, so,
I'm just looking for
absolutely.
input and guidance.
Yes, like,
Did you
get all the facts.
Did you set a time frame when you'll be getting together with them?
Well, we may not need to get together, if we decide we're not going with the impact fees and they just,
Come up with a permit fee figure and just send it to them.
well, if they stay with the 30,000 that they have now, and they draw against it in escrow, we don't need to meet with
Well,
them.
yeah, I guess yes, is the 30 enough?
Was that just for the building permit fee and the electrical was separate?
Correct.
Yes, the electrical gets billed
Because I think the
directly to
electrical
them.
is gonna be the big one.
Everything electrical. Everything electrical, underground inspections, anything electrical is billed directly to Unitil. It's got nothing to do with that 30,000 escrow.
And those kinds of inspections, we may even hire an engineer to do rather than.
Whatever we need to do.
Right.
And like these gentlemen are saying, there's people down there running that electric lines that are probably a lot more advanced than we are. They know what they're doing. They do them all over the place, and they're probably contracted in. I don't think they're like a small operation. So, but yeah, anything at all will be billed to them separately.
But we did say everything will be done by our next meeting, so.
Well, but as long as they're not being held up.
No, we told them to go ahead and do it anyways. So, anything else? Minutes, motion, please. Thank you, Phil, thank you for staying. Ooh, uh-oh.
I want to see him jump over that.
Oh, no, this table. That's trusting in a piece of plastic.
All right, can I have a motion to approve minutes, both sealed and unsealed, or public and non-public? In a second. All in favor, please say aye. Okay, done. Meeting is adjourned at 12:01.